Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps is the classic Belgian speedrome that everybody tends to think of when you think of racing in Belgium, but there's another circuit just 100 kilometers down the road. Circuit Zolder is up next this evening as a true test of skill and attrition for the North American Racing League GT3 driver lineup, serving host to round 5 of 8 on the coattails of Gustavo Ariel's Austria success. Hi, welcome to PitStop TV for the North American Racing League GT3 Season 3, round number 5 at the virtual Circuit Zolder. I am Andrew Cardona IV this evening, not with JP Costa alongside, but with Zachary Murtis. And Zolder, you know, this has been, I think, one of my favorite tracks on the iRacing.com service. It's always held a special place in my heart, Zach, at least since I first tried it in a random test session on iRacing. I don't even recall what car I brought here, but I randomly saw it as a track that was on iRacing. I went ahead and bought it, tried it out for the first time, and I've loved it ever since. But it's vastly underused, I feel like, on iRacing, and as a result, it tends to be one of the more challenging tracks that you ever see on an iRacing league schedule.
You've definitely had a lot more experience than I have. I'm just now getting the track, and I've never really seen a lap turn here at Circuit Zolder, but I'm really excited to see what these guys put on a show for us tonight.
Now, we are on the alternate layout this evening. You'll see what I mean here in just one second as we get into the sim for the first time this evening. There's a lot to be talking about here, I think, with Circuit Zolder. A lot of corners that are really a lot of fun to try and navigate here. There's a lot of tricky corners. Now, there's only 10 on the course technically, but that kind of sells it short. There's a corner or two that maybe isn't quite marked as a corner. I think you looked at the turn 7 complex there as one that could be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 corners, so you can add a few there, and then even turn 9 could really be 2 if you wanted to call it that, and turn 10 could absolutely be 2 different corners. Heck, the turn 5 chicane could be 2 different corners, so it's selling itself short on the corner numbers, but it is a 10-corner circuit, much like Red Bull Ring last week, and you can see kind of where it goes here. Turn 1 is a very sharp left-hander. You've really got to whoa down the car, especially these GT3 cars. It's just over 90 degrees, and there's not much runoff out there. It's a gravel trap on the outside of turn 1, and then turns 2 and 3, you've got to be perfect down to the millimeter right through that racing line before turn 4 brings you back onto the backstretch. It's a long backstretch anyway, at least compared to what you usually see at a course like this, of this length. Into turn 5, that tough chicane, big time curbs though that you can hit in these GT3 cars. You can abuse the curbs here as long as you respect the curbs. Through turn 6, you go up and over a hill, up and over a blind crest. You drop down into 6 and 7, and again, that's a whole complex of a chicane and 2 right-handers that almost feel a little bit like the Lesmos at Monza. That brings you through kind of almost a town section. It's kind of weird. This place is just a big, I guess, eclectic mashup of so many different feelings, so many different I guess, atmospheres all in one, but that brings you down into the hairpin of turn number 8 and around turn 9. It's really just a flick left-right, and then it's the flick left-right chicane now of turn 10. That's where the alternate layout comes into play. Usually, that is a more traditional stop and turn, 90-degree left, 90-degree right chicane, but tonight, we are on the alternate layout. It is a sweeping chicane, and it is difficult. You've got to be right on that perfect line. You can't go 2x2 through there. You're gonna have to be absolutely single file and on your marks.
It's going to be a little interesting. I don't exactly have the most experience when it comes to a GT3 car. I've seen a lot of great races out of a GT3 division series, but, you know, going into this race, one of the things that I'm curious about is how these cars are going to react if they try to abuse the curbs. Some of these guys are trying to go for wins, others are just trying to get some points, but This is my first time sitting in on a GT3 race for this league, and I'm just trying to figure out how these guys are really going to go for it when they start attacking the corners, you know, come down to the last 10 minutes of the race.
We have a lot to find out as practice comes to a close in about 3 minutes' time. Let's go ahead and look at the amateur points first off and see how the amateur guys come into this race. Now, of course, we have the first 40-minute race. That's the amateur race with just amateur drivers. Then, after a quick break, we will have the 50-minute Pro-Am race. But these are the yellow names that we'll see in this evening's 40-minute race that is on track now. Rob Rodriguez comes into tonight fresh off a win in Austria and has a big points advantage here, Zach. You don't have to know GT3 racing to know that 18 points headed into the midpoint of the season has got to have you feeling good. And that is 20 points back to Ilya Speaker, 26 back to Diego Etta, 29 back to David Hicks, and it only keeps growing from there, of course, down the list. This is a really good spot, I think, for Rob Rodriguez to be in.
Will definitely say for certain, I don't care what kind of a lead it is. I know for certain that when I'm running league races, that any kind of large points gap that I have, I'm absolutely ecstatic about it, because I know that, you know, even if just a little slip up happens, I can still have a little bit of wiggle room. But at the same time, you don't want to give any kind of room, because any of these drivers can try to take those points and take that position away from you.
There's a lot to digest here with each series. Let's go ahead and take down the amateur standings and look at the Pro-Am standings into this evening. Tight margins atop the standings. However, Bryce Rodriguez in the Pro-Am category has been moved up to Pro beginning this evening. It's a very surprising move, honestly, coming at the halfway mark of the season, but he has been moved up, and we don't quite know. These are the stats we were handed today, so this is just copying things down. We don't quite know where he's going to fit into things just yet, but if I had to guess, 154 points, probably around the top 5, actually. He might even be 4th place in the standings, depending on how things work out. Regardless, he's going to have a pretty good, I think, transfer over into the Pro category. Just might not contend for that championship that we've been talking about now. Paulo Gadai does stay in Pro-Am, it looks like, and will hang on to that lead, now growing it out to 21 points over Reed Gibson. But if you look at the Pro side, Gustavo Ariel now atop the standings, just over Nathan Lewis. Juan Buena has moved up into the 3rd spot. So guys like Nicolas Rubelar, guys like Dominic Olivier, and Andre Melchers, Victor Miranda, guys that we tend to think of as front runners in this series, they're starting to falter.
And it's definitely interesting to see, considering Andre Melchers and Victor Miranda, we see them, you know, on Tuesday nights in the Porsches, and we see how competitive they are. And to kind of see them a little bit further down on the standings is quite interesting to me, seeing how many races I've sat in, watching them go at it, and, you know, just looking at the points, it's just, it's definitely a lot for me to take in and look at. But I'm really interested to see how things will go tonight, and see if maybe, actually, I kind of want to see Nathan Lewis, see if he can close his points gap. 2 points ain't that much when you're looking at it from a standpoint of, hey, there's a lot of points on the table, and I just want to go grab them.
Practice coming down to a close. Milan Harris will lead the session. John Kroom second, Mike Braun, Diego Eda, and Joshua Tucker round out the top 5 here in our practice session. 37 cars have checked in so far to Circuit Zolder. We'll see if any more are added, or maybe if some drivers decide not to go ahead and race after practice. We'll see. Qualifying, though, getting on track. John Kroom has been pretty darn fast today, Zach. Honestly, I've got to watch car 45 to be one of the top contenders today. He's headed out to the qualifying, onto the track pretty much first.
It's going to be interesting to see how these drivers tackle qualifying. It's definitely going to. I'm definitely excited to see how things are going to play out.
And this is our first real look at Zolder, right? We haven't seen Zolder in some time here on PitStop TV. This is our first look on the broadcast. It's exactly how this track is going to look today. If we pull up the weather, as just some context as to how things are looking, the air temp is quite cool. You know from iRacing, 65 is the lowest you can set the session. We're at 64.8, so we're right at that mark. And the track temp is only up to 85 degrees. It's not all that hot. It shouldn't be too bad for these guys here in this qualifying session at the very least.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it to be very slick, but I also wouldn't expect it to be the grippiest either. You know, 85 degrees is kind of a sweet spot, in my opinion, from a driver's standpoint at least. You know, you're looking at the track, it's getting heated up, and it's going to get a little hotter as the session goes on, because you're going to have more cars on track, you're going to have more heat being put down onto the track, so the track temp's obviously going to rise, but you're the only car on track when it comes to your qualifying session. So I would say 85 degrees for the track temp. It's a great standpoint. It's going to be clear, it's going to be fast, and, you know, honestly, I'm just excited to see what kind of laps these guys are going to put together, as I think we got a couple of them getting ready to start off their flying laps.
So drivers come around to begin their laps. Bobby Flack is on track in a Ferrari. Sean Patterson is out there in a Ferrari. It's always fun to look through car choice. I know John Kroom showed up in a Ferrari today. Diego Eda is back in his McLaren. Milan Harris is out there in a Ferrari for Rockefeller Racing. No surprise there. It's a McLaren, though, for Clarence Rosa this evening. Ilya Speaker in a Ferrari for Rockefeller Racing. And Will Coffey opting for his usual Ferrari. Mike Braun is out there in a McLaren once again. He let us know that one on Facebook. I liked his little comment out there. Brian Long is here in a Ferrari again. Dominic Angelichio out there in an Audi, which I feel is rather surprising. So usually he's gone for a Ferrari or a McLaren. This evening over to the Audi R8. That's a bit of a surprise.
It might be a surprise for you, but it's definitely not a surprise for me, because, like I said, I've never really seen the logistics of what's going on. But one thing I'm interested to see is how the different cars handle with the circuit, and how it's going to let's just say
one thing you can relate to,
he's
Zach,
lapped.
one thing you can relate to is how a car will handle, right? So if you've got I guess, front-engine, real heavy stock car, for example, it's not going to handle the same as a legend car, which is a lot more nimble. Yes, the engine's still in the front, but it's got a completely different base, handles completely differently. The difference here between most of these cars, and for some of those guys out there that might not know that are watching as well, for the BMW, for example, that we're looking at here, the M4 that David Hicks is running with this evening, it is front-engined, it's big and heavy, it lumbers around the course a little bit. For the Audi, for example, it's rear-engined, it's nimble, it dances around these corners, completely different handling characteristics. That's what it comes down to for these guys, is how the car handles. The Ferrari is absolutely the most neutral, the BMW is certainly more to the pushy side, it's a lot safer, but the McLaren, the Audi, the Lamborghini, those tend to attack corners.
Well, speaking of, let's just go look at the top of the board right now. We got Rob Rodriguez on top, and he's in a BMW, but you look just about a little over a tenth back from that top spot is Milan Harris with a Ferrari.
Already starting to see some of these drivers go for their choice of cars, and the Ferrari seems to be paying off there for Milan Harris, although he's got a little bit of damage from the chicane curbs. And
Milan Harris off track.
Yeah, he's going to have to abandon that lap. Let's go ahead and look through more of the field. Kerry Corcoran back in a Ferrari this evening. Lachlan Holiday out there in an Audi. We've got Armando Bejaran in the field. He's in a Mercedes as per usual. He's definitely had an excursion with the curbing. Scott Angelo is in a McLaren. Zachariah Rosar in a BMW. And looking around, Brandon Louvier back in his BMW as per usual. No surprise there.
I'm not going to lie to you. I love seeing how these guys are attacking these tracks, but in all honesty, and I'm going to sound a little bit biased here, I love the look of the McLaren. I just love how it sounds. It just sounds so amazing, at least to me. But don't mind me, I'm just fanboying over the McLaren, me and F1 and all.
Nicholas Sykes out there on a Ferrari. We saw a lot of these guys further back. Brent Kingcott, though, has turned things up recently. He's out there in a BMW this evening. I think that's about normal for Brent. Billy Barrowman showing up in a BMW this evening. Philip Paterka in a Ferrari. Sonny Brown, car 115. He is over to the BMW. I think he's more recently run the Ferrari, so that's a bit of a change there for car 115. And Adolfo Perez, who has been in a McLaren, no, in a Porsche lately, is still in that Porsche. One of the lone Porsches in this field as drivers continue to turn in times. With 4.5 minutes to go, Rob Rodriguez has just had a problem. Where exactly is he? That's out of turn 5. That's headed up to turn 6. And he was just driving backwards for a second.
He's got a lot of front-end damage, trying to figure out what happened to him. Oh, okay, so he's had the damage prior, and just coming through the S's, it seems like it broke loose on him. Oh, he hopped the curb. That's the problem. He hopped the curb real bad, and it just went around on him, and he went straight into the wall.
We do have somebody out there calling us out in the chat saying that flames do not add performance. I don't care what you say, Andrew. Those flames, yeah, they add performance. They make me go a whole lot faster. I want to try and get away from them. They burn you a little bit, but the barbecue on the back end of the McLaren is just really cool to see. You don't see a lot of cars that do that anymore. I mean, you don't see many cars that backfire these days anyways. Now, thankfully, the NASCAR Gen 7 car does backfire quite a little bit. Having seen that at the Charlotte Roval and at Martinsville recently, it does backfire quite a bit. But as far as road racing, you don't see many cars that backfire anymore. Certainly not sustained like that with the McLaren. So I don't care what you say. Flames may not necessarily make you go faster, but it's nice to see. We'll give it that.
What you talking about? Flames add 20 horsepower. Everybody knows that.
Those are usually stickers or racing stripes. Dominic Angelichio here in car 128, position 17. He's about 1.1 seconds, 1.15 seconds off of the pole. Let's go on board with the Audi, see how the Audi's handling around here. Again, this is one of those cars that dances around corners. It kind of prances around. It attacks corners a lot differently. It's a lot more oversteery, and through the hairpin, the car looks nice and planted. Maybe a little bit of oversteer, go back on the throttle. That's where the Audi tends to get it.
One thing I'm definitely looking forward to when it comes to one thing I look forward to in road racing in general is we got a big slide, and that's head on into the wall, and that is going to be his lap over.
more than just his lap. That's his run, done and dusted there for Dominic. And that's why this chicane is going to be such a problem for these drivers. Let's see if we can find somebody else that's headed to it. Blaine Sparling is headed through it as he heads down to the pit lane. Lachlan Holiday, maybe, is he coming up to the chicane? He's going past it as well. No, he's on the wrong chicane. Somebody didn't tell Lachlan he's on the wrong chicane.
Hey, buddy, it's back that way a little bit.
See what some of these other guys are doing. Brent Kingcott, maybe. No, he's at a turn 1. What about Zachariah Rosar? He's in turn 5, so we'll be able to see him head through that chicane here in a few moments, see how the BMW is handling it.
What the point I was trying to make before we had our little incident going through the chicane, one thing I do love about road racing in general, not just GT3, Formula 1, IndyCar, any type of road racing, even NASCAR, is the great thing about road racing is not the guys who are running up front. The midfield battle is absolutely everything I look forward to. They're more on a bit of a level playing field. Some of the underfunded teams, some of the teams that have a bit more funding but still don't have, you know, the kind of car designed too well that they're able to compete too well with the front runners. It just makes for a more interesting perspective when it comes to the road racing. As we see, you know, wow, that was super tight through the chicane.
That was smooth though. As long as he didn't cut the track, that was actually a pretty good corner. I think he's coming up. He's already actually gone through his lap, so he's not really recording any laps at this point, but Dan Willis is. And Dan Willis just went a whole lot faster that last lap, up to 4th place, and only now 4.5 tenths off of Rob Rodriguez for pole. We could see Dan Willis go to the top. I don't see David Hicks anywhere near the top. He's in 7th, so Dan Willis carrying the banner today for Maradnas. This is big.
And he is definitely attacking those corners. You can just see him being super aggressive. You saw him curb hop coming through the first couple of corners, and you can see him riding these rumble strips. Now, a lot of things viewers do need to know is that, you know, you see the drivers riding the rumble strips and they're getting super close to the grass. Some people may say, well, wait a minute, riding the rumble strips is bad. Actually, for some cars at least, riding the rumble strips can help you get through these corners, it can help you attack it better, and it can provide you with a little bit better rotation for some cars. I don't know which ones to be specific, but in my road racing experience, I've seen attacking the curbs a little bit can be pretty helpful as he's coming through the last corner. Let's see, what do we got here on the lap? And coming across the line.
He goes faster, 3rd place.
That is just under 3 tenths from pole as we're rounding out the end of qualifying.
Good line through the chicane there. That was a much cleaner line than we saw from Rosar. Didn't cut that first apex as much, but could have found a little more time there if he had, as qualifying will come down to a close this evening for our amateur event. Appreciate all of you guys watching, and certainly appreciate all the effort from our partners here with the North American Racing League. Here's a look at them. Race Lab, Maradnas, Tam Livery, and JS Consulting doing so much for us. But without further ado, it is time to go ahead and go through our starting lineup here, Zach. The top 10 looking as so. Rob Rodriguez Jr. on pole. 2nd place is Milan Harris in car 69. Starting 3rd, you'll find Dan Willis from Maradnas Esports. And then it's Mike Braun in that 4th spot. Diego Etta rolls off 5th with the car 77. That is a McLaren. Brian Long in a Ferrari will start from 12th spot. Starting 7th, it's David Hicks in, I believe, a Ferrari as per usual. We may see that change, but Ilya Speak will roll off from the 8th position. Going back to row 5, you've got David Stevenson and Brennan Louvier. What a top 10 we've got. 11th place through 20th, they've got some work to do.
Yeah, 11th we have Chris Winstone, and 12th we have the 45 of John Kroom. I feel like I'm going to end up mispronouncing names, but in 13th we have Will Coffey in the 57, and Andrew, I'm going to have you take over so I don't mispronounce any names.
Leon Clover will start from the 14th spot. Joshua Tucker rolls off 15th, and Joshua Lyons. So the Joshua's here in row number 8, rolling off in cars 112 and 123. Billy Bowerman starts from the 17th spot. Dominic Angelichia rolls off 18th. It's Zachariah Rosar, though, starting from 19th, and Bobby Flack 20th. If you roll just a little further back over to 21st position, and in row number 11, it's Sonny Brown in car 115. Blaine Sparling starts from 22nd. Kenneth Michael starts from 23rd this evening in car 19 with Adolfo Perez in that Porsche. I think the only Porsche in the field this evening, starting from 24th. It's Joshua Benjamin and Nicholas Sykes when you roll back to row 13, and Austin Hodell rolls off from 27th spot with Sean Patterson in 28th. To finish up row 15 of the top 30 is Brent Kingcott in 29th, Clarence Rosa 30th, and starting 31st and 32nd, it's Philip Adurka, Scott Angelo, then Kerry Corcoran rolls off from the 33rd spot, Chip Witt in 34th, starting 35th, you'll find Armando Bejaron. Lachlan Holiday missing that chicane earlier. He's going to have a whole lot of learning to do on lap number 1 when he goes straight and the rest of the field doesn't, as one car is slow to roll off of the grid. But starting from the back row of this field, Marco Garcia in car 36 and James Colborn in car 38. And it seems like somebody is sleeping on the grid. I'm not entirely sure who that is. It looks like that might be Billy Bowerman. Yes, it is. Sleeping on the grid.
Is quite the uh-oh there. I wonder if iRacing will let him keep the starting spot then. Usually when you fall behind on the pace speed, you end up losing your spot.
We will see.
Do we have an alarm clock we can send down there to him?
He's not in the car. This is going to be a serious issue if the field goes green and he doesn't move.
He's just sitting there, and, you know, they're getting ready to come around and take the green.
That could be a serious issue here in just a few moments. You can see the field into turn number 5. So we've got a little bit of time, admittedly. It's not entirely urgent just yet, but it is a problem. He's going to need to move that car at some point. He is still stopped over there. Billy Bowerman in car 2.
Oh, the gears are kind of moving around for him. I think he might just have a technical issue. I'm on board with him right now. He's flipping through first and neutral, and he's turning his wheel. He's trying to get it moving, I believe.
Car is on. It's idling just under 1,500 RPMs. The car is on. He's in neutral.
He just can't get it into first.
Well, the field is going to roll down onto that second straightaway and head towards turn number 8. And I think, yeah, Bowerman is still there. Now he'll finally... Okay. So hopefully, I'd imagine admins may have taken to that, or he might have finally seen the issue and gone ahead and just towed. Either way, he is off the racetrack, and we can start this race in just a few moments without issue. Through turn number 9, Rob Rodriguez will lead us to the green. Weather today is looking pretty okay out there. Still 65 degrees in the air. Well, just under 65, and the track temp still at 86. It's actually dropped down from the beginning of qualifying. Winds are sustained just about 6 miles an hour. No concern there. So we are ready for racing then at Circuit Zolder on the alternate layout, and leading us to the green, it is Rob Rodriguez Jr. Green flag is out. Look at this field run through this alternate chicane.
See the rundown in turn 1, and Rob Rodriguez has gotten to a pretty decent gap over the second place car of Milan Harris, but I'm interested to see how the Ferrari is going to try to get through these corners and try to go up there and catch Rodriguez.
Letting the entire field cycle through turns 1 and 2. Already down to turn 4, Rodriguez with a big lead over the couple of Ferraris behind him. Then a couple of McLarens round out your top 5 through turn 4 and headed down that backstretch.
Don't call it the commentator's curse, please, but I'm absolutely hoping that we make a first full clean lap.
Rodriguez headed up over the hill for turn 6. One side by side, Brian Long and David Hicks. This is a cool view. Now to turn 7 through the chicane for the first time. One of my favorite corners in all of racing. I really enjoy this chicane compound. You've almost got 2 chicanes back to back. It just sets up for some great moves into that braking zone. And already down through turn 8, our leaders are headed out of turn 9 now. Rob Rodriguez Jr. with an outstanding lead. And we'll head down to turn 10 here in just one moment. This is where I think we'll see some mayhem.
Looks like the 3 leaders are going to make it through clean as everyone else is trying to file through. And we are going to complete lap 1 with no incidents on track. Hey, I didn't jinx us, so how about that?
Billy Bowerman and David Stevenson did not make the call for the start of the race. We saw Bowerman's issue, but Stevenson just didn't grid up. That is the whole field through. I'm absolutely astonished. Not because of the quality of the drivers at all. The drivers are perfectly fine, but that's a tough chicane. That is an absolutely tough chicane. It absolutely punishing. If you're just off by a little bit, you've got problems. And now the first incident comes after the first lap. Armando Mejeron and his Mercedes out in the dirt in turn number 1, and it looks like Sean Patterson and Philip Paderka may have been involved.
I think we should be able to go take a look at that in just a minute here.
We'll go ahead and let the leaders keep doing their work. Rob Rodriguez through turn 7, Milan Harrison second. Mike Braun just been passed up, and he is off in turn 7. Long takes a look. Speaker there as well. Side by side now to turn 7.
Don't you just love road racing, seeing these side-by-side battles? We got a 3-car battle on our hands right now, and look at how close they're getting through these corners. going into this next left-hander, it's a bit of a wide swing out of that Ferrari, but I'm interested to see how they're going to go through the chicane.
They do get single file. They know what's ahead. They know to be careful here. Will Coffey
we got to car around
by a little bit. That is lap 2 complete. James Colborn has spun a little further back in the field. We'll let him do his thing, let him focus back forward as Bobby Flack has an issue, it looks like, in the midfield. And, oh, wow, this is a big one on the front stretch.
What was that?
We've still got cars crashing. We've got cars flipping. Nicholas Sykes and some others. We had one car absolutely flip down the front stretch. That was Kenneth Michael in an Audi, one of the few Audis in the field. Now that is replay worthy.
Lord have mercy.
So we'll go from Kenneth Michael's onboard here once we get back to replay. And here we go. Let's just watch this and see what happens. We've got problems out
of the chicane.
Well,
I think he just hit the third on the left side.
Oh!
And, oh, Lord! Oh, my goodness me.
Nicholas Sykes involved. That initial car that was spun around, I believe, was... I have a couple of ideas. It might have been... Was that Bobby Flack? I think so.
Maybe we should be able to take a look here. I think he just clipped the grass with the left side tires, and from there it was just breaking loose, and he slammed the wall. Obviously, we all know what happened next.
That was Bobby Flack. Here's an overhead view.
Going through the last chicane.
Right there.
Yep. Right there. Just a little miss through the exit chicane. Oh, my gosh. And he just hit right there where the opening is on the track.
Sykes had nowhere to go, but the rest of these guys doing a fantastic job missing cars, flipping on the front stretch. Only a few more impacts after that. Adolfo Perez wowing it down. Fantastic wreck avoidance from the entire back of the field there. There's been some other cars with some trouble. Lachlan Holiday has spun around onto turn number 10.
Oh, we got a car around on the front stretch.
Yep, that's Lachlan Holiday. I gotta say, love the paint scheme. I see some Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy stuff on there, and he's telling everybody behind him not to panic, but I think there might be some reason for him to panic at least. Spinning around onto turn 10. I like it.
So, do we see a bit of a trend going here now? Because that's the second car to lose it out of the last chicane on the racetrack.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The alternate chicane is going to do that to us all night long. As Dan Willis has had a problem. He is up against the wall through turn 7, exiting the corner anyways.
And we were just talking about Dan Lewis in qualifying. Right? Dan Willis, excuse me. We were just talking about him in qualifying, how he was doing so great. I wonder what's going to happen here on the replay. We see him hop the curbs in the chicane. We saw him doing that in qualifying too, and we were notable about how aggressive he was being on these curbs.
Dan Willis through the turn 7 chicane around the right-hander there, catches the grass. And now I chose to test for this track myself in an Indy car, just because it's faster, it's got more downforce and such. And I can't tell you how many times I did exactly that through my testing to set up cameras and everything. It is so easy to do through turn 7. Just clip the inside apex there on exit just a little too much and go around and have a spin.
It's definitely easy to be able to try to attack the curb best you can, and I've made the same mistake myself, whether it be in a legend car, whether it be on iRacing, in a GTE car, even a Le Mans car. It's definitely interesting to see how drivers try to attack these curbs, and sometimes it just doesn't go the way you expect it to.
Look here at turn 5 as a lot of the field comes on through. And this turn 7 chicane, you can really abuse those first 2 apexes. You see where the green paint is there at the apexes with the rumble strips on the inside. Those are fine, but it's when you get to that third apex, a little ways down the road, and we'll see it better here. That third apex is when it starts to punish you. There's not as much paved corner cut in the room there. It's a lot more grass. That's where you start to run into problems, and it wasn't even quite there where we had the problem for Dan Willis. It was it was that apex. He clipped the grass a little bit, and the car just kind of came around on him. And that is Lachlan Holiday with a problem right in front of us.
That's the second incident for Lachlan Holiday.
Got loose again. The Audi will do that.
As we got, apparently it seems like Bobby Flack.
Oh, Ilya Speaker.
Patterson. Oh.
Big problem here for car 6 was a front runner. Was battling, I think, just inside the top 5, and now has a problem, is slow going, and that Ferrari will resume racing pace. Let's see what happened here to Ilya. I have a guess for you already. It's turn 1. It is a slow corner for a GT3 car. My assumption is that Ilya got loose or ran wide and got the grass at the outside. Either one I think is entirely valid. This time, well, he got loose, but it looks like it's more of a result of getting the inside curbing, and that's also very easy to do.
It looked like he just dipped his left sides on the other side of the rumble strip and it got away from him. As we play a little bit of Austin Powers moment here, trying to get that car rolling.
Austin Hodell's just had a problem afterwards. Let's just watch this live until it happens. Well, not live, but watch this continue on until it happens. More cars with issues. Armando Bejeron, Joshua Lyon into the pit lane and with big issues after towing. Let's see what happens here to Hodell. It's a good look back in the field as well as to what all is going on back here. Passing all of those tents in the inside of the racetrack there. Hodell out of Canada. He has Adolfo Perez just behind him. We might even connect this into another incident. John Kroom has just had a problem, and he was very fast in practice. Oh, classic issue there for Hodell. Got the grass on the right side into the braking zone. Very easy to have happen. And now John Kroom has had a problem. We'll see this happen. This might even be in the chicane. The exit's turn 9.
Too much happening right now.
He's passing Clarence Rosa into McLaren, and this is dangerous. Down to turn 10. Rosa takes a straight line. And,
but he's loose. That is a heavy hit right there. That is John Kroom's race right there, just over.
The John Kroom of Rockefeller Racing, big trouble there. He's got his, well, he's continuing on, but it's not very pretty. You'll see it here in just 1 second.
Might just think about taking it back around to the pit lane instead of doing the trouble of towing. I can understand that logic. I honestly hate towing myself. If I can bring it back around, I'm going to bring it back around.
And he's just behind Kerry Corcoran, who's got very similar looking damage. Lachlan Holiday, another issue. He's into the pit lane. James Colborn is just ahead of him. Winstone loses the spot here. There's a big gaggle of cars headed down this third straightaway into the turn 10 chicane. Well,
these guys are listening to what they're hearing on the driver chat in iRacing, and they're telling each other, you know what? I think we're just going to start being a little bit more patient through that last chicane.
Rosar and Louvier doing battle here. This is to get into the top 10. Louvier just lost that spot, and he is headed backwards quick. As here comes Chris Winstone to make a move in car 37.
We got Lachlan Holiday, who just came out of the pit lane. You saw that on screen. He's right here in the midst of the traffic.
That pink and blue 88 BMW headed up to the back end of Lachlan Holiday now into turn 5. And he is now officially out of the battle for the top 10. He's in 11th spot with Chris Winstone closer to him than he is to Rosar. That top 10, it's gotten sorted out pretty quickly. Rob Rodriguez leading by about 2 seconds, maybe a little bit more now over Milan Harris. Bit of a checkup there for Louvier out of the corner. And Lachlan Holiday, again, same spot out of turn 7, goes for a spin.
I think the closest battle we have on track within the top 10 actually would be the 77 and the 20, who are battling for 3rd and 4th at the moment. Only about a couple of tenths separate the two of them.
David Hicks chasing Diego Eda there to the 3rd spot.
Let's just take a moment right here. You see David Hicks taking a bit of a shallower entry while trying to follow the 77. They're both named David, right? I'm still trying to get used to all the names.
Diego Eda there in car 77 nearly had a win at Long Beach a few weeks ago, and this could be a nice little rebound for him.
Just looking on, I'm just interested to see how this goes. That's a very late break to close that gap, and he closed it beautifully. David Hicks has closed that gap. He's closed the gap about a tenth from when he started this lap.
Just inside a half second of Diego now as this battle goes on. There is a battle further back. Brian Long is chasing down Mike Braun. This is for 5th and 6th. And really, these are the only two battles inside the top 10. The leaders have checked out at this point. And Long is working to get into the top 5. And I think, Zach, he's got a good chance to do it. It's a matter of setting up the McLaren and pressuring Mike to hustle the car. With 27 minutes to go, a pit stop still looms for these guys. They'll still have to come in and get fuel. But the McLaren, is, especially as the tires wear out, is a lot more apt to make mistakes, no matter who's in the car. It doesn't matter if you have... you could put Lando Norris in that car, for example. It's still a McLaren. It's still going to get loose. It's still going to have problems.
But you also got to look at the aspect of, you just said we're coming up on at least one pit stop. You could make a strategy call. You could just try to hang back a little bit, save the tires, and even if you're still close to the following car, you could still try to make a pit stop strategy. You could do the undercut, the overcut, try to get some better tires, and see what you could do with it. It's all a matter of how you choose to run your race, and just overall, to be perfectly honest, be patient with it. You've got plenty of time.
I'm glad you bring up tires, because you know what, this shows that you're a bit newer to the GT3 stuff, and admittedly kind of threw you at things pretty quickly at the start of this one, but we won't have any tires changed in these races tonight. At least we shouldn't, unless anybody, you know, goes into the pit lane and just doesn't pay attention to their stuff. But these tires will go 2 hours, and that's where things really get difficult, is there isn't a whole lot you can do in the pits. So you've got to be absolutely perfect on the racetrack, or at least trying to get in and out of the pit lane if you want to maximize that kind of time, because these tires are perfectly fine. It's going to be a detriment, if anything, with cold tires to take tires at your pit stop, and these guys will need just one stop in the pit lane to top off on fuel, get back out there, and chase these guys down. But tires not going to be a concern for these guys. You can still wear them out a lot quicker, though. You can still abuse them. You can still overuse them in the early stages.
I think that just brings more into my point of being patient, because if you try to burn through these tires too quickly, you could... I've done it myself before. We've all done it when we're learning on iRacing. You spend the first 5-10 laps, and you're out there, you're clocking qualifying laps, and you're thinking, okay, I got pace. I think I can win this race. 5 laps later, you're losing 2, 3, 4, 5 spots on the racetrack because you burned up your tires quicker than these guys who know what they're doing.
Speaking of the McLaren making mistakes,
that is not the place you want to be off track right now, especially with cars coming in. He pulls off to the side to make sure that he does not have any run-ins with cars, and that is Mike Braun in the McLaren, and he is pulling off into the grass, trying to stay out of the racing line.
Fortunately, he's right back in the racing line now on exit of turn 5. Here comes the field to go on by him.
He's just going to stay over to the left side as everyone tries to go on by him, and he is probably going to take that McLaren straight to the pit lane.
He's got suspension damage. Car 107 with some issues. Go back and see how this starts. It's going to happen in turn 4, and it's very, very easy to do. We've talked about this track being challenging, especially because it doesn't usually make its way onto many schedules, but this is a look at what happens to car 107. Turn 4 is a very, very fast sweeper. It's easy to go a little too far one way or the other. This time he goes out to the gravel, and you can even see there was a tire track over there where somebody else had done it recently, and that's a big, big hit into the wall.
It's definitely... You know, it's one of the worst ways to go. You just saw he barely got in there. You saw that right rear dip, and race cars in general are rear-wheel drive cars. So you dip that tire somewhere where it's not going to have traction, anywhere that's not asphalt, and it's just going to slip and slide. And the second it comes back on the asphalt, it's turning faster than pretty much any other tire. And well, there you go.
A look now at Diego Etta and David Hicks still battling for 3rd and 4th, but the battle for 5th has changed as Brian Long is now solo in that spot ahead of Will Coffey, Dan Willis, Joshua Tucker, Zachariah Rosar, and now move Brandon Louvier back into the top 10 with the exit of Mike Braun from the front of this field. There's a battle right behind him. Sonny Brown, Chris Winstone, and Leon Clover are close to each other. They work through turn 6. And Sonny Brown a little bit offline there through 7. Contact.
Very loose.
And that puts Winstone off in the grass. He loses a spot. Leon Clover goes by, and Angelico takes a look. There goes by Blaine Sparling. Sparling to the 14th position. Good move out of Blaine.
That was very late on the brakes. I honestly thought they were going to wreck right there.
Oh, contact there. They're not done.
Do we take this into the chicane?
One would usually hope not, but here we go, and neither one of them wanted to give. Blaine Sparling eventually takes that position over Angelico, just ahead of Joshua Benjamin. Now, Diego Era has recently lost third place to David Hicks. There's changes all over the racetrack as here comes Ilya Speaker to the pit lane.
You know, one thing I do have a question about, you might know this a little bit better than I do. How do these cars respond in the dirty air when they are following? We see guys just taking different lines, trying to move around, find what works, and, well, personally, I want to know for myself, how do these cars respond when following someone else?
It's not usually a huge deal, especially GT3 cars. They've got the rear diffuser, much like NASCAR has implemented with the NASCAR next-gen car. It's not usually a big deal, but you absolutely can have some aero wash and some lack of front grip when you get behind somebody, at least closely. So it is a concern at times. I don't know how big of a deal it'll be. Honestly, that turn in the chicane could definitely be a problem. Turning into turn 10, that could be a bit of conversation for the rest of the day.
Absolutely. Just, we look on at the chicane, we see how the drivers are attacking it. It's so fluent, you know? You just see them quick left, quick right.
It's almost through there. You know what this feels like?
It's hypnotizing to watch.
A little bit, and what it feels like is one car goes straight to the pit lane. That's scary. What it really feels to me, or feels like to me, is old racetracks. The way old racetracks were designed. This would absolutely be one of those challenging features in a place like, well, not Spa, but you know, it could be one of those things like at Brands Hatch, where you just have a corner that has just changed over the course of the years. I forget the name of it now, but I want to say the back end of the circuit, but you get my point, right? It's one of those corners that absolutely looks like it could have been a mainstay for several years, and as racing evolved, as racing changed, it just had to be changed just a little bit. You know what? Like the chicane at Watkins Glen that had to be implemented in the 90s. It's a lot like just looking at a corner that it looks like it's fast, challenging. It could have been a mainstay for several years, but it had to change after a while, and now you have that safer version. But now we're on this more hectic version, quicker version, and it's just so challenging. Watching these guys go through here is really cool.
Gonna say, the one corner that comes to mind when I look at this, Maggots and Beckett's at Silverstone. Just a high-speed, flat-out corner. You just take it, and it's such a fluent motion. Quick left, quick right. There's a little bit of a slowdown when you come onto the hanger straight, but in reality, Maggots and Beckett's is a high-speed, fast-paced S corner, and that's just exactly what that chicane reminds me of.
Joshua Benjamin here, close to Dominic Angelicchio. Almost doing battle. It's a quick downshift for Joshua through that corner. And now cars in the pit lane. Brandon Louvier is in. And his number 88, Zachariah Rosar as well. It's a slow and narrow and challenging pit lane to get into, first of all. But now Louvier will finally get to the pit lane and will get closer to his pit stall, come in for service.
We've got just under 20 minutes left on the clock.
That's exactly when you see pit lane open up. So these guys can go about 3/4 of this race on a tank that's about a half hour. They can sometimes go a little longer, maybe a little bit shorter, depending on the track, depending on throttle time and how much they save. We'll see pit stops from now about until 10 minutes to go in this race. Maybe even, like I said, a little bit later than that in this race, potentially, depending on how these guys budget their fuel. For Louvier, it's a 13.56 second stop. For Zachariah Rosar, though, it's only 12.43 seconds, so a much quicker stop there for car 199.
I just kind of want to follow up on this real quick. You said that these cars can go 3/4 distance on fuel, but my question is, with, you know, the lead that Rodriguez has right now over Milan Harris, do we see him pull the strategy of stretch it out a little bit and try to short pit to make it to the end of the race, or pit now and have that excess fuel that, you know, you could just burn off if you needed to?
Well, consider the fact, and this is what a lot of drivers, most drivers in this series will absolutely go as long as they can and take as little fuel as possible, so that they're running the car on as little fuel as possible, as much as possible. They have the end of that first run with low weight, and then they get back out there and it's still decently low weight. They only put what they need in. They might even put less than what they need in and save to hit that fuel number. They want as little weight as possible in the car to save on the straightaways in particular. Now here, in certain cars, you could even go for a little more weight in the rear, like the BMW potentially, if you're experiencing tight symptoms, but I don't think we're going to see that be too big of a concern. They're on fixed setups. We shouldn't have too much variance in how these cars are handling unless they've got damage. It should be cut and dry and just as little fuel as possible at all times. Adolfo Perez is in. Joshua Benjamin paces down the pit lane. And these guys are all getting service. Louvier works into 17th now. Should get 16th by Benjamin. And we'll see exactly where he cycles out in just a few more moments. Again, a long pit stop. Our leaders go around one more time.
They are definitely trying to stretch this fuel run out. I'm interested to see how long he's going to stretch that out, and if we see him come in at the same time as Milan Harris, or maybe decide, try to spook him and short pit. The strategy game is what really gets me going when it comes to road racing, especially. Ooh, that was a little dip into the gravel trap right there by, I believe that was David Hicks.
Dominic Angelici around in turn 10. And I don't think he is going anywhere very quickly either. He is stopped.
He is just sitting there. Oh, he's backing up.
So if nobody comes along here.
Get it in gear, buddy.
You can see he's got a big wide gap, so he's able to get that car turned around and get back on his way. Let's go ahead and see what happened to him in turn 10. He was parked there for some time, 30 seconds or so.
Third car of the night to just lose it out of the chicane.
We probably missed him as well, but the driver out of Indiana. Let's see what happens here in turn 10 for him. Turns in, fine. I think he hesitated a little bit, hit the bump, and it was off from there. You can see the car kind of skate once he compressed over that bump, Zach. The car just took off. He bottomed out, the car took off, and set to the right by about 6 inches, and that was just too far.
Yeah, the second he went into the chicane, it just looked like he was a little too far right going into the exit, and yeah, you just saw him kind of try to get out of the gas.
Let's show it one more time. Really watch this compression. We'll even go to slow-mo when he gets there. Watch this compression. And this is a little bit of what I was scared of. This compression right here, and the car just skates for a second, steps over, and at that point, he's over in the grass. He's trying to turn back left to try and get out of that grass, and then the car is loose because he has to turn back right so sharply for the back end of the chicane. At this point, he's skating on the tires out to the exit, out into the dirt. He gets too far out there. It whips around on him. So it's just, I mean, that's the alternate chicane for you.
It's one thing, honestly, you can relate from even all forms of racing, open wheel, stock car, GT3, it doesn't matter. You just see the cars compress, unload like that. They will skate, they will bottom out, and it's the driver who needs to figure out how they can best save the car. And sometimes, you just lose it. Even the best of drivers make some mistakes like that.
Marco Garcia into the pit lane. I think he's the only car currently on the pit lane for regularly scheduled service. So not many drivers opted to come in at this point in time. Let's go ahead and bring the ticker back up. Rob Rodriguez Jr., though, back onto the front stretch, completes another lap around the circuit, and Milan Harris will finally come into the pits in his Rockefeller Racing number 69 to take service here. Sonny Brown, I think, is coming in.
To pit. Let's see here.
Sonny Brown isn't in just yet, but Milan will come in. We'll see exactly how long this stop takes for Milan. And this would be a good gauge as to what the leaders are doing. We've seen about 12.5, 13.5 second stops so far. But this would be a good gauge as to what exactly the leaders are trying to do. Will Coffey, for example, took a 12.3 second stop in the box. So that left time, the left timer there on your graphic in the bottom right is the pit lane time as a whole. The right number, that is the pit box time, and it's over 14 seconds for Milan, so he was pushing. He had to get a little bit extra fuel, and that might sink him back a couple of positions. That is tragic for car 69.
David Hicks might just inherit the second place as a whole and keep it for a little bit. But, it's going to be interesting to see how things go.
Here's a look at Dominic Angelico now headed into the pit lane. No surprise that he spun and then decided to come on in. I wouldn't be entirely surprised if maybe an Audi driver or two takes tires tonight. As here comes Rob Rodriguez, our leader. David Hicks will follow. Diego Eder will follow, I'd imagine, yes, in the McLaren. Brian Long as well. The car you saw pulling off and taking the chicane, though, that was a lap car. Dan Willis will follow in. Sonny Brown is next up, but he's a good ways back of these drivers in the top 5. Let's see how their pit stops go. Oh!
Dan Willis.
Contact there. Thankfully, they should have a fast repair to fix that. It shouldn't be too big of a concern, but you still don't want to do it.
As a driver, you just look at the damage, you think, okay, might not be too bad, might not need the fast repair. Let's not use it.
Yep.
Interesting. I didn't see him get too much damage. Oh, that is quite a bit of right front damage for Willis.
Rob Rodriguez off and away, 12.45. Dan Willis. Oh, there's Diego pulling away at 11.55, so he's underfueled again. Hopefully he doesn't run out this week. Brian Long is off and away at a 13.7. Dan Willis at a 12.96, but he was slow into the pit box. And we've lost David Hicks. He's still in the pit lane. 30 seconds. My goodness.
Yikes. Where is Milan Harris, though, on track compared to the rest of these guys? Oh, wow.
Moves back into the second spot just ahead of Diego Era. You can see Diego with now a car between them. That, I believe, is Clarence Rosa. So Clarence will give way here, and now Diego Era is able to set his sights ahead. Brian Long sorts into fourth. Will Coffey in fifth. Dan Willis dropped all the way into fifth position. And Brandon Louvier's got trouble in car 88 out of turn 1.
My goodness. He's got a little bit of left front damage.
A big-time fan favorite this evening, around in 1. And I think this is going to be a pretty cut-and-dry incident. He's already got a little bit of left front damage. You'll see it here in just one moment as he sweeps through the chicane here. Watch the left front. Even that right front might have some damage. That left front is definitely not in pristine condition. Big problems here for car 88.
Just going through turn 1. He's on the brakes right here.
Too much
he just dipped it into the curb.
And the track falls away from you, Zach. And you can speak on the point a little bit. You've driven Legend cars, and I imagine maybe even tested one or other two things. But when the track falls away from you there, that's definitely the time not to touch that curbing. It really just emphasizes that weight transfer onto the outside corner of the car, and you go around just like that.
Look at it this way. A lot of people know what marbles are. Comes to most racetracks, it's the little bits of rubber that come off the tires, and they always fling to the outside of the racetrack, which is why on most oval races you don't see people going to the high line to make passes later in the race. The curbs, when the track starts to wear out, are just as bad as those marbles.
These guys continue on. Watching the battle for 4th and 5th. Brian Long and Will Coffey here. Oh, Will Coffey! Sideways into 5. Caught the grass under braking. Goes for a spin. We caught that one perfectly timed for us. Unfortunately, not so much for him.
That is just a terrible way to go. He's got a little bit of left front damage. I think it's not going to be enough to hinder him. He's probably going to keep going, but that's just terrible for him. At least he got it going. He didn't lose too many spots. He's going to try to get it back, and I'm interested to see how this is going to go. Just about 10 minutes left.
I love some of these comments from the Brandon Louvier camp. Andrew Charles Avanch out there, banana peel. That's accurate. That's what it looked like.
Somebody plays too much Mario Kart.
Hey man, they've made some pretty big updates to that game in recent years. I like what's going on there. And you know what? He just said Mario Kart is the play. Yeah, I get it. Here's Blaine Sparling. Could check into the top 10 here soon. This is a driver I've seen kind of have a decline recently. Was fast when the season opened up, has kind of slowed down, but is starting to get back into his form. Challenging Leon Clover potentially here soon for that top 10 position, as a few drivers have fallen out due to attrition. So car 159 could be in for a good one.
Absolutely. You see him close up about 2/10 on the straightaway going into the braking zone. I feel like that he does have a car that can contend for a few more positions, and I feel like he won't just settle for 10th. We still have 9 minutes left in the race, and he's not too far back from the next few cars in front of him. He could go for a couple more spots.
Speaking of not being too far back, car 127, Dan Willis starting to challenge Brian Long here. This is in a turn 7. You can see how close they are.
Remind me again, Willis did start 4th, and he spent a little bit too much time on pit road, which is the whole reason that he's back here. But he's had a fast car, and that Ferrari has been on rails.
So it was Hicks that spent tons of time in the pit lane, and David Hicks actually has sorted into 16th position now. His pit lane time tells me that he likely had a penalty. That's usually, in fact, when you bring this up, you can see it's 40 seconds more than it should have been. That's usually a penalty. If you take a penalty and service, that is a 40-second hold. So there you go.
Remind me again, the things are different for road racing. But 40-second penalty, that's usually for not taking a slowdown penalty, am I right?
A slowdown or incidents. You do get drive-throughs for incidents, so if he popped one of those walls, especially into the pit stop, into the pit lane, very much could have been a 2X. It could have been just a 1X for maybe cutting a corner a little bit too much and getting that 15th incident. So we're going to see more of that, I think, in these next 7 minutes or so. A few more 1X, a few more 1Xs triggering penalties for these guys. So they have to come in and serve a drive-through. And to penalize for trying to combine a drive-through and a pit stop, that's where you get that 40-second hold. Because if you only drive through the pit lane once, you're saving basically a whole run through the pit lane. Well, not basically, you literally are, as Adolfo Perez goes purple that lap. But that's the penalty, basically, for not serving a drive-through penalty.
If I had to take a penalty, and I've done this multiple times before, I'd rather take a 2-second slowdown than a 40-second pit stop. You're going to lose way more over the course of the lap. As we take a look at Marco Garcia coming into the last chicane. He's just a little less than a second away from the car in front. That is... Who is that, actually?
Brandon Louvier.
Ah, there we go.
Now, Louvier, one of the fan favorites out there, holding on to 17th spot, so he's dropped down the order quite a bit, just hasn't quite had it. Was pretty good in qualifying, admittedly. Qualified, what, about 10th spot? So started inside the top 10, but has since really fallen off. So Louvier Nation, I'm sorry, he just doesn't quite have it this evening.
It's quite unfortunate, too. While we have about 6.5 minutes left in the race, I'd like to take the opportunity to take a look at the lead a little bit. We got about a 6.5 second gap between Milan Harris and Rodriguez. It's interesting that I had brought it up, and now I actually do want to talk about it again. Pit stop strategy. You were only taking fuel, of course, but Rodriguez had an almost 2 seconds faster. He had literally about a 1.3 second advantage over Harris. Now it's almost 7 seconds of a gap.
You see there 12.45 in the box versus 14.07 in the box for Milan Harris. And the time difference there also reflected in the pit lane time. Now, I don't think Milan Harris is going to catch Rob Rodriguez anyways, but the 2 seconds extra of fuel, they're not going to help him at all. And the counterpart to that story is Diego Eder with a 2 second quicker stop versus Milan Harris, and even quicker than Rob Rodriguez, underfueling that McLaren a little bit. Now, fuel options will be a little bit different between car to car, so that could be part of it, but I think also he's been underfueling as of late. This could be a strategy move to get him into this battle just in case anything happens to Milan. Clearly has not been able to contend quite like he wanted to on pace, but still has shown speed and is still close to car 69 in case something does happen. You can see the effect of that for car 77, I think, taking an easier ride through this evening. Now, while we have about 5 minutes to go here in this race, it's definitely worth talking about our partners here with the North American Racing League and all that they do for us. There's 4 of them that we like to talk about each and every race evening as Milan Harris pops those curves through turn 5. You can see that is one heck of a view. But a big shout out goes to RaceLab.app, Moradness Esports, Tam Livery, JS Consulting. RaceLab is a third-party software that you can add to your iRacing.com experience. It's got native VR integration. It is perfect for any sim racer, new, veteran, big-time setup with the VR, with the triples, or whatever. No matter where you're at in your iRacing experience, RaceLab.app is for you. It's free to use, and it adds so much to your experience, much like the coaching that you get at Moradness. We have so many drivers in this series that succeed so much more on a daily basis, a weekly basis, as a direct result of the coaching and the help from Moradness Esports. In fact, Dan Willis, for example, 4th place this evening on such a challenging racetrack. He's done all of what he has done as a big result of what he gets from Moradness. We've seen that happen with Alex Persian in the Porsche Cup cars as well. So Moradness certainly has a big effect on you as a driver. With the Porsche Cup Series, I talk about the setups being part of the battle and the coaching being the other half of the battle. I guess you could make it a third of the battle with coaching, third-party software, and setups. And Moradness is such a big part of that. If you don't know what you're doing at first on the sim, this is a good way to get you clued into exactly how to utilize the sim, exactly how to make the most of your time on iRacing.com. As far as making the most on your time on iRacing.com, how about making the most of how you look on the racetrack? Tam Livery is great at doing that, putting together fantastic paint schemes on the racetrack. Unfortunately, I don't see too many of them in the top 10 to show off for you quickly anyways, but if you go to Tam Livery on social media, or if you look at anything from the North American Racing League on social media, they've got some perfect examples of Tam's work on display for you. And JS Consulting, if you go to NorthAmericanRacingLeague.com, check out the league website, that's all JS Consulting. Perfect examples of exactly what each of these partners can do for you, potentially for your iRacing league, your iRacing career, or what have you. 3 minutes to go And after I just scorched my throat, we have a battle potentially for second and a battle for fourth.
Oh yeah, bring on the multi-car fights. Let's see them. We got Harris and Ere for second on track, and then Willis and Long for fourth and fifth on track.
And this one's a lot closer. Long is very close to Willis.
You saw him swing wide there on corner exit.
Will Coffey is no concern, and oh, Brian Long deep into two, and he's going to go around!
That is a big mess up from Long, and that is going to cost him dearly.
Oh, gotta be careful.
Ooh, that was close.
Joshua Tucker goes on by. Will Coffey goes on by. So now move Will Coffey into the top 10. Brian Long down to 7th place. So that battle's taking care of itself. Now let's look to Diego Eda as he chases down Milan Harris, or at least tries to hold to him. Just over a second and a half back. He had closed in a whole lot more and has lots of time.
There's still plenty of time to go. We got him just under 2 minutes. We should be getting the white flag here in, I want to say, the next 2 laps or so.
ATVO tells us 2 laps to go this next time by the start-finish line. That could be 1. Of course, pace changes things, and when you have a pit stop that slows things down, that changes things, but it does look like we should get 2 laps by this time around, or 2 laps to go this time around. Car 66 for the start-finish line this time. And right there, yes, it will be 2 laps to go. Gets across the line with 5 seconds to spare.
We're sitting over here talking about all these battles, and Rodriguez is worried about absolutely nothing with that 8-second lead.
You see there, no white flag displayed just yet. A good look at Barney, the flagman, with his green flag in hand. I'm surprised he doesn't have a yellow in hand, considering all of the crashes headed his way. I mean, we had Kenneth Michael flipping towards him a little while ago.
He probably had to take cover. That's probably why he doesn't have the yellow flag with him.
Adolfo Perez in trouble, it looks like. After going purple recently, he is around, and I don't actually, that is in turn 7. So problems there for car 92, but he gets back going at the tail end of the lead lap. David Hicks, Ilya Speaker, they're close to Chris Winstone. This is for 12th. Car 37 at the head of this battle.
See one car in the McLaren getting out of the way, trying to just make room for these guys, trying to fight for these spots.
Oh,
we got one car off track.
Gifted a position over Leon Clover there. Leon goes wide at turn 4 and gives the 9th spot up to Blaine Sparling. Easy spots there for the BMW. And Rob Rodriguez is headed down to turn 10 one more time to take the white flag. And Barney will happily display it to car 66 this evening, presented by Whiplash Simcams. White flag is out at Circuit Zolder. Literally 4 or 5 seconds to spare there as Adolfo Perez comes back to the pit lane. That, though, is the gap back to Milan Harris, then the gap back to Diego Eda, then the gap back to Dan Willis, and then the gap back to Will Coffey. These top 5, even the top 10 as a whole, rather spread out tonight.
You could send a text with how spread out these cars are. Oh, that was
and Chris
very, very close. That was incredibly close. Do we see him move into the chicane, though? I don't think so. He doesn't have enough of a run when being hard on the brakes just like that.
Turn 8's your last passing zone here on the lap. There's no hell. If they make a mistake, you can pass him at 10. Wow.
That was very close. You just saw the car unload a lot as we got real close battle coming into the chicane again.
Louvier and Brown. Brown just went on by. On board with Louvier here.
Give me a side-by-side into the chicane. I want to see it once tonight.
We got a whole race. Let's not jump ourselves here as Ilya Speaker and Chris Winstone swap spots there for a moment. They're back into the same order now. And Rob Rodriguez Jr. into turn number 8 for the final time. It's going to be an easy, nice little jog back to the start finish. And he might not even, well, he will go on by. It looks like one lapped car should let the other one finish their race, as it has been an easy Thursday evening drive for car 66, and he will collect the checkered flag. Ilya Speaker, David Hicks, they're in trouble. Chris Winstone as well. A big-time crash in turn 5. We'll get a look at that here in a few moments, but Rob Rodriguez Jr. gets all of the glory this evening. A big win at Zolder.
Definitely see that replay.
Milan Harris goes second. Diego Eda third. Dan Willis fourth. Will Coffey fifth. Brian Long and Joshua Tucker follow through. Zachariah Rosar across the line right about now. Well, that was fun.
We still got a whole nother race.
50 minutes to go still for our pros and pro-ams here in a little bit. So waiting on a couple of cars to come across the line. Brent Kingcott should be next, then Marco Garcia. There's Brent across the line in his BMW. That should be Marco Garcia as well. And Garcia will go 13th. Ilya Speaker should be next up in 14th position. As usual, we'll let each of these... There goes Louvier. We'll let each of these guys finish their race. Then we'll go back, and I really want to get that replay between Speaker and some others. Hicks was involved. Winstone. And Winstone will not finish this race. John Kroom is next up. He is slow. He's out of gas.
Quite unfortunate for the 45.
Philip Berjerker will go by and take that spot. John Kroom will drop down to the 19th position, maybe. That is the worst
Rodriguez
feeling.
might be coming around. He might be able to give him a push. You know, little Lightning McQueen King action. Is that right there in the middle of the chicane?
Yes, this is in the middle of the turn 10 chicane. He's the last car to finish this race. I don't think anybody's going to help him.
That's to just run out of fuel right there before the end of the line. Like, you're not even maybe 1 or 2 football fields away. That's... ouch.
Let's go back and catch this mess with Ilya Speaker and company. This is a good look at things as they started this final lap. Side by side with Hicks there. So it was Hicks and Speaker that swapped spots, not Hicks and not Speaker and Winstone.
Everything seems fine at the moment. Interested to see how Winstone actually got caught up in this. He seems to be the lead car out of the 3.
Being told that Chris Winstone may have run out of fuel in front of these guys. Let's take his onboard. Yes, he's sputtering. He tries to get over out of the way. And into the chicane, then what happens?
He's fully clear.
David Hicks runs through the back end of Ilya Speaker. That's what happens.
And Winstone just, I guess, reacting to the incident, decided to try and see if he could move.
Oh.
They're backing up right in the middle of the track.
So close there to collecting Marco Garcia. Let's watch this one more time and see what happens with Hicks and Speaker specifically.
Big time contact shot here.
From Hicks' perspective.
And right here, you see Winstone starting to run out of gas. He gets off the racing line. They got a little checked up.
He was nowhere close.
That was too big of a send, in my honest opinion, especially for the position they were running in. Winstone again.
Yeah, I mean that was in the mid-teens.
Was trying to react.
He was nowhere close. That's a really poor decision, and unfortunately, that's really going to impact Ilya Speaker's race. And Speaker does get back. It looks like Hicks tried to give it back up, actually, so I'll give him that credit there, because Ilya Speaker finished ahead of him, and Louvier punted Sonny Brown.
Right after the incident, that blew his motor. He went head on into the wall.
It does look like Hicks, yes, he's giving up spots here. I think he realizes exactly how bad of a move that was. And Speaker went on by, but now we've got to go back and see what happened there with Louvier.
We got a replay frenzy tonight.
Catch this here with Brandon Louvier. He was behind Sonny Brown here as they lapped in the back end of the circuit, and I can hear the Louvier crowd just going wild over this one. They didn't even know this one happened. We didn't know this one happened. He catches up to Sonny Brown very quickly in 5.
There's the incident right there in front of him. You got Speaker and Hicks.
Yeah, you see the bright yellow car ahead. That's Hicks. Hicks slows down into turn 5, and Louvier just drove through him.
I think he was trying to go for the move. He looked like he was trying to go for the move, but I think he just didn't expect that he was still there.
So that could be a post-race penalty for him.
I would expect one as well. Not okay. It's just not okay.
That said, that's 40 minutes of amateur racing done and dusted here with the North American Racing League GT3 bunch. Let's go ahead and get ready for some post-race interviews. Rob Rodriguez Jr. has checked in, and Rob, another easy Thursday evening drive. I say easy Thursday evening drive, but it never really is it?
No, there's always, the nerves and just wanting to keep the car on the track and consistent. But yeah, it was a lot of fun today. I was surprised. My pace wasn't the best in practice, but over the past couple months, and I've been working more on the mental aspect of driving. Not letting the nerves get to you, and really staying focused and confident. I think that's helping me a lot. I mean, I'm not the fastest guy out there, I think, but if you can be consistent and clean and not make any mistakes, you got to be at the end. to have any good results. So I think that's paying off for us now.
Now, how big of a challenge was this course this evening? Circuit Zolder slips through the cracks in most leagues, isn't on the schedule very often, and with the alternate chicane this evening, it seemed like it just added to it all.
Yeah, for sure. Some of the other sims that I've driven in the past, like ACC, for example, featured Zolder a lot. So as I've mentioned to you last week, I was really familiar with the track, and I like it and enjoy it. The last alternate chicane there was a bit of a curveball there. Not my favorite. I still prefer the regular chicane, but yeah, I really like the track. Tight, twisty track, technical in sections. Getting it right is really about being patient in some of the corners, not over driving the car. So yeah, for me it was a lot of fun. I can drive it. I can race on this track every week.
And as far as your points battle, it's wide open now. I mean, you've got a huge lead after this race, surely. You already had 18 points on Brent Kingcott, who finishes well down the order. You had 26 points to the highest finishing competitor of the rest of those guys. How does that feel going into Charlotte, where it's going to be so hectic next week, knowing that you've come alive at just the right time?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I know it's kind of cliche, but I'm just not even thinking that much about point standings and where I'm winding up. Again, it's just about really turn by turn, week by week, just trying to do the best I can every week, and then we'll see what happens at the end. As I said, if I can be consistent and keep it clean and keep on track, avoid mistakes, and then of course there's always the luck aspect, get a little bit lucky. Then yeah, we'll see what happens next week and towards the end of the season. I'm excited. It's great. Today is actually my first win ever in an iRacing event. I've been P2 a few times, but this is my first win. So I got to let that sink in a little bit. For me, that was a personal goal, and I really feel good about that. So,
how long have you been chasing that monkey off your back? I mean, I know Bryce has been around for a couple of seasons now. I think you've been around with him for about that same amount of time, at least in this league. But how long have you been chasing that first one?
Yeah, I would say a good year and a half. I got active in iRacing about a year and a half ago, like a lot of people, maybe a little bit longer. And just unlucky, impatient, nerves, all kinds of different things, self-doubt, confidence, and those are the things that I've been working on to try to improve. Of course, I got to give a huge thanks to Bryce. He helped me massively this week, just with confidence and also, being my spotter during the race. So that's a big help. But yeah, it's great to have that behind me, and now I can just kind of focus on knowing that I can at least get good results.
The Evolution Racing number 66 goes to victory lane this evening in Belgium. Congratulations, Rob. It's a big one. First all the way across the board. 29 laps led out of 29. Congratulations, buddy. Live this one up, and we'll see you next week in Charlotte.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.
As I mentioned that, Zach, it is Charlotte up next for the GT3 cars. We've seen it recently with the Porsche Cup cars, but it's going to be a different monster with each of these different manufacturers and certainly each of these different points battles.
Absolutely looking forward to Charlotte. Hometown track for me, hometown track for you as well. And I love how the Roval is laid out, and I just love how great it can be.
You say hometown track, aren't you closer to VIR?
Wait, am I?
I think you might be. I know you're the other side of the state. I'm the Charlotte side, you're the Raleigh side. I think you're a bit closer to VIR, which is interesting enough. Regardless, these next two races for us, very familiar, I think, to both of us. Very close circuits to us. Charlotte Motor Speedway, then Virginia International Raceway. In fact, I always love telling people to get to VIR, you've got to go into Virginia, then into North Carolina, then back into Virginia. There is no other way to get to the track, and of course, it's the same way. Leaving, you've got to go from Virginia into North Carolina, back into Virginia, and then you can go about your way and you can go places. You have to take that road to get in and out. It's the only way to get to VIR. I love it. I really love these next three tracks, and I mean, we're still only halfway through the night here at Zolder, but I'm already looking forward to next week at Charlotte, and then VIR, and then Interlagos. Just a fantastic schedule that was put together here by Scott Reister and the rest of these guys at NARL.
Oh yeah, and just three tracks right up next. They're drivers' tracks. I mean, I know that's kind of a stretch saying when it comes to road courses, because You could make a driver's track out of any road course, really. But the Roval, with its transitions and its banking, VIR with all its elevation change, then Interlagos. Oh my God, Interlagos! I love that track. I just absolutely love it, especially the Senna S.
I see some of you guys tuning out already. Don't go anywhere. We've still got more racing to go, and this is a look at the standings for the pros and pro-ams. We've still got a 50-minute race coming up next with different drivers, at least from this race, faster drivers. Technically, it's going to be a lot of fun. You've got to make sure to watch this one. Look at the points battles as well. Gustavo Ariel and Nathan Lewis, that's the one we're really focusing on. Just 2 points apart atop the pro category. You do not want to miss it. I see some of you guys saying good night. Well, you know, good night if you are leaving, but if we can get you to hang around, by all means do so. A lot of great racing is on the way this evening. Now, if you are going to tune out anyways, well, I understand you're tuning in for your driver. I get it. At least make sure to take note of the upcoming broadcast here at PitStop TV, looking as follows. Bristol Motor Speedway Dirt for the MPI Cup Series this Sunday evening at 9 Eastern. Then Tuesday afternoon, we bring BSR MX-5 right back into the fold. It is Road America for the Mazda MX-5s at 3 p.m. Eastern. And on Tuesday evening, it's the North American Racing League Porsche Cup season finale at the Red Bull Ring. Plenty of places to keep up with us here at PitStop TV on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram for social media, and then Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch for our broadcasts. There's no reason not to keep up with PitStop TV in this day and age. That said, it is time for us to go ahead and take our quick intermission and get ready for our Pro-Am race in just a few moments. We've got more racing on track from Circuit Zolder. Do not go anywhere unless it's to go grab a snack, grab a drink, do whatever, come on back and get ready for 50 minutes of GT3 racing in Belgium. Welcome back to the virtual circuit. Zolder race 1 on the day is out of the way. That's the amateur race, and Rob Rodriguez, of course, taking top honors there. We're now ready for the second race. The Pro-Ams are on track for qualifying and getting their laps laid down. In fact, we're just over halfway through the session. Andrew Cardinale with JP. I'm so used to JP Costa. I've done that now 2 broadcasts in a row where I start to say JP. Andrew Cardinale the fourth with Zach Murtis alongside this evening. Zach, I know it's been a lot for you to get used to very, very quickly, but already I think getting into the swing of things here with the North American Racing League and the GT3 side of things. It's been a whole lot of fun with the amateur race. Pros are on track now.
So used to just doing the social media. Being in the booth is just a whole new experience, man. Like, you see all the names, but now you actually got to say them instead of typing them.
That is one of the first big challenges, certainly. Anytime you get into a series like this, Andre Melchers. A massive impact there in qualifying. He is fastest so far in this session. Let's go ahead and bring it all up for you and get into the session properly. One lane at second place. Here's a look at his Ferrari. So it's an Audi for Andre Melchers. It is an Audi for Nicolas Rubelar, who goes second quick now. Hunter McDaniel in a Lamborghini this evening. Matthew Dench in car 83 has opted for a Porsche. How about that? For the 5-star motorsport driver, back in his 5-star livery. Gustavo Ariel, last week's winner, over to a McLaren this evening. How about the differences of cars here? Bruno Del Carmo for a full-time esports, also in a McLaren. Simon Nicholson sticking with his Audi. Scott Reister is in the top 10. Wow, Scott Reister bringing the heat this evening in 9th place so far. Arthur Least looks good as well. Mark McDonald is out there in a Ferrari. Rodrigo Lepre is in a Ferrari. Scott Kimbrough is in a BMW. John Sedlak is in a Ferrari. Mitchell Ian Green is out there in car 19 in a Ferrari. A lot of Ferraris, a lot of McLarens, and even a Lamborghini or two. I'm surprised. There's an Audi there for Fabio Zamperlini. There is a Ferrari for Bryce Rodriguez, and we briefly saw Juan Bustamante, who really turned up the wick last week at Red Bull Ring, came onto the circuit, first-time driver last week at Austria, and has really shown himself as one of the drivers to contend for wins here. Very, very quick last week. Should be quick again today.
We saw what went down with the amateur race. I'm excited to see how these pro guys are going to do. I said it last race. I'll say it again. I want to see side by side into the last chicane. I want to see it. My night will not be complete if I don't see it.
You are one chaotic guy, huh?
Hey man, you should see me in the race car. You should hear me on the radio. It's not a pleasant thing.
We'll save that. That one's not even appropriate for TV. We'll save that for another time. I can only imagine. I've seen this guy race a couple of times. I can only imagine how he swats flies in there. Juan Bustamante headed through the chicane though at turn 7. Bustamante should have a nice little lap together. Fabio Zamperlini, it looks like, will not get a time down. Bryce Rodriguez, first lap out. My goodness, 26th quick. He is not jiving with this place at all. First race as a pro, and it's not looking good for Bryce. His father just won the amateur race, and not looking great here for Bryce. But Andre Melchers, on the other hand, was quickest in qualifying by quite a little bit, over a 10th to Nicolas Rubelar, and second and third not on the racetrack. And the first car on the racetrack is Hunter McDaniel, who just pulled a wheelie through turn 5.
You said he pulled a wheelie?
Yeah, those curves will do something to you. And Juan Bustamante, by the way, just goes up to 4th quick. Yeah, that Ferrari's got some speed.
I'm going to say, pulling a wheelie, where's the front grip going? It's like three-wheeling on a dirt track.
Well, you know what? If you're onto the straight part, as Dench cuts the chicane there, that'll be an invalidation of his lap time. If you're on a straight portion of the racetrack where you don't have to turn anymore, it might not be so bad. So if you can just pull a wheelie and eliminate the friction from the front tires, maybe it works out for you. I don't know. But Hunter McDaniel, certainly a unique strategy here in this qualifying session. Let's go ahead and take the back end of the session to remind you guys about the point standings coming into this one. It is all Gustavo Ariel up top, and I do not see Nathan Lewis in the race this evening. He just might drop out of this battle. Now, this is all drop week pending, I believe, and after this week we might see that figured in. So Nathan Lewis will be able to use that drop week, but interesting choice of it this week.
Was unaware of a drop week, to be perfectly honest. I talked all about how these guys are 40 points back, and it's only going to be the top 3. And
but a lot of these guys will still stay. A lot of these guys have run each of these races so far. They might miss one, but the drop week should narrow things back down a little bit. Fabio Zamperlini, I don't think he's going to go from 9th to being in the championship lead by any means, but things might narrow up a little bit. You can see things on the right side as well. The purple numbers, those are your Pro-Am. So things will move around a little bit once we do get that drop week, but for now, this is the battle. And again, I got to go back to the fact that Gustavo Ariel, Nathan Lewis, and Juan Blainat are your leaders, and that is entirely unexpected from what we would have expected going into this season. So some big changes certainly in store for us here this season with GT3 cars. Let's go down trackside and get ready for our starting grid, though, Zach. We have got quite the lineup this evening, and it all starts off with Andre Melchers on pole, Nicolas Rubelar in second place. That is your front row for Zolder. Juan Blainat in the third spot, Juan Bustamante rather, so it's an all Juan second row, just like we had an all Joshua row earlier on in the day. Hunter McDaniel rolls off from the 5th position, Matthew Dench 6th. Starting 7th, it's Gustavo Ariel, who won last week at Austria. His teammate Bruno De Carmo lines up in 8th. Simon Nicholson will start from the 9th position in that Audi, and Scott Racer this evening, a really good qualifying effort, will roll off from 10th, and that is pole for Pro-Am.
And going on 11th, we have the 30, who... oh, excuse me, I got something in my throat. Andrew, if you don't mind. Sorry.
Arthur Leese will roll off from 11th. Mark McDonald in the 12th position. Starting 13th, you'll have Mitchell Ian Green. It's Paulo Gaday in the 14th spot. 15th, you will find Rodrigo Lepre in car 182. Then it's Reed Gibson rolling off from the 16th position. If you flip back to row number 9, it's Brian Zinn and Scott Kimbrough in the 18th spot, while the back of your top 20 looks like John Sedlak and Martin Crisp in car 56. The field gets ready to roll off the starting grid. We bring you row 11 with Pierre Thompson on the inside, Justin Sang on the outside. Blake Scott will roll off from the 23rd position with Mike Galbraith alongside. And if you go back to row 13, great Scott, it's another Scott. It's Mark Scott in the 25th spot with Lucas Souza rolling off in 26th. Your back 4 cars this evening, beginning with Bryce Rodriguez, amazingly, after such a fantastic Pro-Am win, I believe it was, or at least Pro-Am top 2 at Red Bull Ring. Yeah, he's starting very deep in the field. 27th in car 24. Elliott White rolls off from the 28th position, and a little further back, Tony Kanaan joins the field this evening, starting from 29th with Fabio Zamperlini in 30th.
No sleeping cars on the grid.
That is a good start. Weather this evening looking as follows. It's just about the exact same as we saw in the amateur race. Very little difference there. That is good to see. The weather conditions are fantastic for virtual race in virtual Belgium.
Looking at an interesting race, to be perfectly honest. Bit of a smaller field compared to the amateur race by about, I would say, 7 or 8 cars. But I still think we're going to see some incredible racing for 50 minutes.
Down to turn number 5, these guys go through the chicane and head back up towards turn 6, that hill. This is a really cool view. One of my favorites on the racetrack as a whole. You see that chicane, the left, right of turn 5, and then up the hill, you see cars coming straight at you. That is a really unique angle, really, really cool to see. I think one of the coolest views you could have in this whole.
As long as it doesn't turn into the Mercedes from Le Mans, where it starts flying through the air, hits directly into the camera.
I don't think we'll have that problem tonight, thankfully, as Andre Melchers actually passes the pacing car here, the safety car, trying to lead us around. The Porsche Cup guys, they don't get this luxury of having a warm-up lap. That said, these GT3 drivers do have to budget for that in their fuel savings tonight, so that's going to be interesting to see how these guys cope with that as they head back onto kind of this second straightaway and back around to turn number 8, that hairpin. We're going to see some big moves there. It's really the last passing opportunity on this racetrack as we saw in race 1.
Yeah, but it's nice to see the warm-up lap. Drag the brakes a little bit, warm them up, scrub the tires so they're a little hot so you don't go sliding into turn 1. It just provides a little bit more of a, well, let's just say a bit more of a cushion for that first lap.
Down to turn number 10, we will go and we'll get this race underway. It's Andre Melchers leading us to the green flag. Nicolas Rubelar in the second spot. Through turn 10 we'll go. The entire field going to get this race started. And green flag will fly momentarily. A slow start, and now we're racing for the Pro-Am race at Circuit Zolder. a good view on the racetrack there. You can see these guys flying by as we go through the first couple of corners. A very quiet start to the race. All 29 cars still rolling. Out of turn 5 now, you can see our leaders head over the curving. This is just really cool to see. Ryan's in, a couple of positions, it looks like a couple of cars rather slow in turn 5. They keep going. All cars still moving at race pace. You can see them heading over the curve. You can see some side-by-sides, mostly single file. Definitely a unique way to watch lap number 1. Here's our leaders, though, through turn 8, Zach, and you can see the first 9 or so are off on their own. It's a gap back. Actually, looks like 7. A gap back to Arthur Least, who leads them around the 8th corner. And oh, no! Kimbrough wipes somebody out. Massive crash.
They're still wrecking going through the corner. We got 3, 4, maybe 5 cars off track going into the gravel.
A massive accident here. Rodrigo Laprie, Martin Crisp, and so many others. Kimbrough was the biggest one in all of that. Lap 1 will complete. We've got to go back and take a look.
The replay coming up. We had some cars going into the pit lane trying to get there, and let's see what we got going on.
Bryce Rodriguez is going to absolutely clobber car 117. It's 177. There we go. Of Scott Kimbrough. Watch this at the turn 8. Bryce just misses the braking point entirely and will drive through him here right about there.
Oh, just completely missed the whole thing. Drove straight into the bumper. Really nothing that could have been done after that. And they just piled in directly after. You see 5 cars off there in the grass, towing back to the pit lane. Just, I wouldn't want to call it a bit of a racing incident, but he was pretty close to the back bumper, and, well, off he went.
Right through Rodrigo Laprie and takes a couple with him. I mean, I've never seen anything quite like that. Other cars involved in this, you can see them here piling in. I see, is that Mike Galbraith? It is. Bryce Rodriguez got caught up in all of that. John Sedlak, it looks like, with Putwell.io on the car. There's Martin Crisp in the Porsche. Wow.
Galbraith got into a bit of an incident directly after. There was a secondary incident following the initial incident. I said incident way too many times.
A couple of laps complete now. We go back to live picture as we rip by the speed shot on the front stretch. Andre Melcher's still leading Nicholas Rubler. I heard one motor. I don't know if you guys heard that through my talking. Somebody definitely put the clutch in there into turn 1. I heard one motor drop all the way down to idle speed there. Already, fuel saving here at Zolder. I didn't know if it would be a big deal tonight, but obviously it is.
Definitely a much tighter top 10 over the first couple of minutes than we saw in the amateur race. Interesting to see how these guys are going to do it.
I heard some clutch there.
He's only
on the clutch long enough for the motor to drop down to idle speed and then right back in. The way these guys fuel save is so fascinating. Zach, you don't know. Fuel saving is one thing, but to just put the clutch in long enough for the motor speed to drop down to idle. Here we go again. Clutch in, I think, for a second, but into 7 especially. The clutch was in long enough for it to drop down to idle speed that he dropped the gears, he got back in, released the clutch. That's unique.
For these braking zones, you got to brake differently. You don't have the engine braking when you push that clutch in.
Yep.
And it's a scary feeling, especially for me, because I'm not the best fuel saver in the world, but it's definitely so interesting. You don't have the engine braking, so you have to change up how you're braking, whether you get deeper, whether you let off earlier. You just have to be more mindful, and that's all that encompasses the fuel saving. And the way these guys are trying to do it, it just absolutely amazes me.
Mitchell Ian Green and Mark McDonald, identical paint schemes it looks like this week. McDonald trailing. And Scott Reister, in all of this calamity to get the race started, has dropped out of the Pro-Am lead. That is now belongs to Mark McDonald, the 16th spot. You can see a full top 10 of pros, then 11th through 20th, all Pro-Ams. The field splitting up nicely in that way. There's Scott Reister down in the 14th position in car 142. Not the start he wanted, given the fact that he put the car on pole inside the top 10. You see, he started 10th, down to 14th now.
I think the one thing throwing me off with these Ferraris is that they're kind of curved in on the fenders on the front. I keep thinking that these guys have damage on the right front or the left front.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if most of them do. Fabio Zamperlini in trouble. He's in an Audi,
Oh, no.
and he is turned around in turn 7.
He's off in the grass, off the racing line. He's got a couple of cars coming through, but we'll see here. Take a look at the replay.
Anytime we see a former champion around, though, that's big. On
Even
board of them
champions
here.
make mistakes. Andre Melchers goes purple as we're looking at the replay. Just got in a little too hot, if you ask me. Oh, wait, nope, didn't happen here.
That was the turn 5 chicane. This is turn 6 heading down the hill, and it's in turn 7 where he has problems. And he's just going to come in a little bit quick, and the Audi comes back around on him. I mean, that's absolutely almost expected to see in the Audi, to be entirely honest with you.
Right call, wrong chicane.
So Fabio slowly gets back onto the racetrack, gets back going, and that is that incident for him. He sorts now at a 23rd out of a 29-car field. All cars are on the racetrack. Tony Kanaan did not make the call for the start, but the cars that are down out of this race by a lap, well, they include Gustavo Ariel, who won last week and is now your point leader. He's had to take a pit stop, it looks like, for a fast repair at some point. So a big problem here for Gustavo. This is huge.
I don't think Nathan Lewis is going to be sitting
not
up
here.
in the... Well, yeah, but I don't think he's going to be sitting in the fetal position that he missed this race, wondering, am I still going to be able to take that point slate away?
That's fair. This, it looks like, is the back end of the issues for Gustavo. Supposed to go back even further and find this problem for him.
Gosh, look at those curb hops, man.
You can see he's already got that damage, so we got to go back even further and find the damage. He was already in the pit lane one time prior to that. Where does he get all of this? This is like headed back to lap 1.
I did hear a little bit of contact on lap 1, but I wasn't too quite sure about it.
This is literally headed back to the start of the race for Gustavo. Everything has gone run since. Look at the field bunching up, the way they get this race started. Some contact
Just
there.
a huge stack up accordion effect. You can see those cars in the back. They just weren't able to stick with it.
And that's where Reister got some of his damage. Let's see what happens here. Oh my goodness!
Oh, he just got put in the wall.
Matthew Dench just drove him into the fence. That's a perfect
Track
angle. He's got to
awareness?
go further back.
Track awareness much?
Well, that's where we go further back here. We'll see exactly what happens here for the Porsche of Dench. Watch Gustavo Ariel there, left side of our screen. Yeah, Dench just put him straight in the wall. Matthew Dench, a former championship battle driver. I'm very surprised by that.
Do we look at a little bit of netcode, though? Because you see the contact that was made, he didn't really seem to suffer too much from it.
Oh, he does. You'll see the car crabbing in a second. Just able to keep it rolling. Let's see. Should see it in 1 second down this backstretch. I am so astonished that Matthew Dench would have done that.
Starting.
Yeah, there you can see he's crabbing, so that's why he's pitted.
Suspension damage, probably.
Oh, absolutely. If it's crabbing like that, that's absolutely suspension damage. Falls back to just ahead of Scott Reister. So this might tell us a little bit of what happened in the beginning of this race that even put Reister behind the mark.
The accordion effect on the start was just terrible. Credit where credit is due, though, making a crab walking car work. Oh,
Simon Nicholson gets turned around by one of Gustavo's teammates. That's where Reister drops down the order. McDonald is able to go on by. Now, I'm still confused as to what happens further here to Gustavo Ariel to really put him behind. Is there an incident here on lap 1? Do we have to go further up in the replay? That's where the crashing happens in turn 8 behind him. You can see that in the background. It looks
crab
like
walking
he's okay.
down the straightaway. Does he make it through the chicane? Okay. Oh, he takes it right to pit road.
And I think he pits in for the optional repairs because he comes back out of the pit lane in a few moments. So he comes in for the optional, goes back out, realizes it's still crabbing, and just has to do another lap around, take his fast repair. So absolutely disaster mode for car 15.
Yeah, you can see his hands up on the wheel trying to make sure that the car was staying stable, and he's just trying to make... Yeah, look at him going down the straightaway. He's got the wheel cranked to the left a little bit.
This will be the best view of it down this backstretch.
Yeah, look at it. Not centered at all.
So last week's winner and the current point leader coming into this evening, this is his fate. That's huge for the whole season. The season as a whole, that is huge. It's going to be like he didn't show up this evening. Nathan Lewis might have picked the right race to skip.
Do we have that fast repair, though, as we had in the amateur race?
Yes, he's gotten back out there in a clean car. He's back racing, but He's even picked up more damage to his car since the fast repair, and this will be a good look at it here in a moment. As he exits turn 5, we should be able to see it as he comes around turn 6. You'll see he's picked up curb damage on the left front corner of that car. But that said, he's continuing on. He's back at it. He's in the 28th spot as Simon Nicholson is a problem.
That is heavy right front damage.
The Australian goes around to turn number 5. So, 39 minutes to go.
Up on the hood too.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are going to pop the fenders a lot tonight. This is one of those tracks where you've got to abuse the curbs, and we're going to see that next week as well at Charlotte. We're going to see a lot of GT3 cars in the next couple of weeks with a lot of damage on their front fenders.
Those lovely turtles at the Roval. You love to hate them, but at the same time, you also love to love them.
On board with Bruno DeCarmo.
I'm not sure why, but turn 1 here at Zolder reminds me of turn 1 at Mid-Ohio. It looks a lot like it.
I see the similarities. I definitely see what you're talking about there. I think, it's Bruno DeCarmo's off in the grass. Good save. I think
a little wiggle, but he got it back straight.
I think Mid-Ohio has got a wider corner radius. I think it's mostly okay. What I do want to talk about is, I see a comment already, can we watch the race? All right, I get it. We took a long time on the replay. What you've got to understand is we're here to tell a story about a race, and it's the points leader and last week's winner, who had an issue on lap number 1, was put in the wall by a former championship contender. There is plenty of reason for us to go back and look at that story. I'm sorry, there's still 40 minutes to go in the race. 40 minutes to look at your favorite driver. That is huge as to why last week's winner is in 28th, a lap down. The point leader, guys, you got to consider the context here. Everybody else here, I think, understands the context. I'm sorry, but that is huge to this season.
He might still be able to gain a couple of spots, as we do have some of the cars in the back half of the field that are getting ready to go a lap down, and he will be able to take those spots away.
Let's go on board with third place, one Blanat. Nicholas Rubelar in the second spot, being chased down. It's a Ferrari on an Audi here trying to make this pass.
Now, you were saying that the Ferrari is a little nimbler through the corners, a bit more of the neutral aspect when it comes to how the cars are designed. Oh. Do tell. Well,
yeah, the Audi, as I talked about earlier, has got that rear engine platform. It's absolutely a better car in corners as long as you can hang on to it. We've seen issues. We saw issues in the amateur race with Audis getting loose, especially through turn 10 and even out of turn 7. Remember not Hunter McDaniel. Who was it that went around? Lachlan Holiday. That's who went around out of turn 7 a couple of times. It's really easy to spin an Audi, especially getting back to power with that weight transfer back to the rear. But if you can hang on to the Audi, it's usually one of the better GT3 cars, and especially at a track like Circuit Zolder like this evening, it's going to be the best car. That's why you see Andre Melchers and Nicholas Rubelar out front.
Melchers has made that lead out to just about 2.5 seconds. I mean, Rubelar has closed in a little bit off the chicane, but Melcher seems to be pulling the gap in a lot of these technical corners. A bit of the grass right there coming through too, but he seems to have everything neatly under wraps. The question is he doing any fuel saving at the moment?
Absolutely, these guys are absolutely saving fuel. We can go on board and see if we put the clutch in here.
Yeah, down through the gears in the second.
Not putting the clutch in, but they're saving fuel. They're lifting a little bit early. Wouldn't be surprised if we're even seeing some fuel map changes for these drivers. Actually, I'm not sure they can change the fuel map. Fixed setup race, they shouldn't be able to. So it's going to come down to saving in other ways, just trying to,
actually, no, I do think you can save the fuel map. I've seen it. I don't know how it is with the GT3, but I have seen it in the IndyCar. You are able to change the fuel map.
I'm so glad iRacing opened that up in the IndyCar. Unfortunately, that's still not. It shouldn't be available in a GT3 car, I don't believe, unless I missed an update. But last I knew, anyways, and maybe a driver out there that's a little more familiar can obviously correct me. But I've not raced in GT3 in a minute, at least not in a fixed setup condition. I don't think that's an adjustment these drivers have available to them. So I think that's something they just got to deal with right now. If they can flip through the maps, that's obviously the best way they can save fuel this evening. You can stay on the throttle, keep hitting your marks, but safe while on throttle. Here's Bruno DeCarmo working on Matthew Dent. This is for the 6th position. And so McLaren approaching a Porsche. We've not seen many drivers use the Porsche this season, especially not here at Zolder. I'm kind of surprised Matthew Dent, of all people, is in that car.
You could have been like me, who bought a GT3 car in the spur of the moment and just bought a Mercedes. I didn't even know which car to pick. I was just like, pick one car, and boom, there you go.
Porsche, goes straight through the chicane there at turn 5, and, that's even more reason for me to be surprised that he's gone with that car as Bruno DeCarmo goes on by. Arthur Least is a little further back. So Bruno DeCarmo, that car behind him is Gustavo, currently in the 27th spot. He's gotten by Bryce Rodriguez, who has had an absolutely abysmal go of things this season. Of course, got caught up in that incident earlier that we saw, and just simply has not recovered. Bryce in the 28th position. Let's see if we can get a look at him here. There he is, car 24. Absolutely abysmal run today.
I do think we see Least catching Dench. He might have a slowdown penalty. He's definitely going to have a slowdown penalty after cutting through the chicane like that.
Dench goes on through the turn 10 chicane. He's still got a gap back to the 30 car,
who apparently has quite a bit of right front damage.
Again, these guys are popping curbs, especially in turn 5. We can see it here in a minute. Not at all surprised we're seeing that kind of damage as this race goes on. On to lap 30, or not lap 33, minutes. Well, 33 minutes to go. That's where I'm trying to go with that. We're on to lap 13, actually, of an expected 37. So 33 minutes to go there as the timer winds on down. Let's go on board with Arthur Least and just watch the way he pops these curves.
You just saw him with a face full of gravel with Dench right in front of him.
Boom there, boom there. It's really that anti-cut on the inside of the second apex 3.5 that's going to get you. You can get the first curbing on the left side pretty okay, but it's that curbing on the right that I think is damaging these cars. They can pop down here, get the anti-cuts there. A little bit wider at the second apex, and get anti-cuts there at 7. So far there's 3 opportunities to hit an anti-cut. There's a 4th if you really cut turn 7's exit. Thankfully, there isn't one down here at turn 8, so there's nothing to damage the car in turn 8 aside from other cars.
See him close in on Dench in these braking zones. Absolutely super late on the brakes, and you just see so much closing rate. It's absolutely amazing. Got a couple of lap cars in front of the 2nd and 3rd place cars.
This is a quick look at 2nd and 3rd. Rubel are going to go to the inside here of one car. That is 26th spot, Brian Zinn. Rodrigo Laprie just ahead. These guys have both just gone 1 lap down and are trying to hang on to their little battle. And I can't blame them for battling. Unfortunately, there's... Oh my goodness.
That is the 3rd place car of Rubelar off track.
2nd place.
Oh, 2nd. Sorry, I was looking at the relative and it showed him in 3rd. He had just gotten past.
Well, yeah, that was 3rd place on his rear end. One Blainat, and of course goes right on by. That's what I was going to get to. You've got your battle, and usually if it was just a single lead lap car coming up this battle, I'd say the lead lap car should back down. However, when you are a lower ranking battle with a higher ranking battle coming up, I think you've got to be mindful of that. There's a relative screen, and I know drivers have a lot going on. I've been a driver, I get it, but you've got to be aware of this kind of thing. I'm sorry. With 30 cars out there, plenty of battles going on, you got to be aware of this. And Brian Zinn makes a really unfortunate mistake. Pops the curbing there, pops the curbing again, and just brings
the rear end up right into the air.
Brings Rubelar along with him, and man, that is huge.
And they've also got to understand, their lap cars, obviously they got to get out of the way. There's the opportunity that with you, I've always said when it comes to lap down cars fighting, the car following usually could have a better advantage because they get past first, then they can see how the next car is going to get past, and they can try to take advantage of the lead lap cars who are faster than them, and they can follow, learn, and try to take a little bit of advantage of.
Rubelar drops down now to 9th place, the last car in line with the rest of these pro drivers, just behind Mitchell Ian Green and ahead of Mark McDonald, who have separated a little bit. Paulo Gaday, though, is starting to approach, and this is for the Pro-Am lead. Paulo Gaday closing in on Mark McDonald, at least holding with him.
Just watching on, I do want to see how late on the brakes he is getting. Seeing so many drivers tonight you know, just trying to find out where their braking zones are and seeing how deep they can get on the brakes into some of these corners. It's just
Clutch
so...
in there.
Yep, there's the clutch right there.
So turn 7, it seems. Let's see if we can go back to somebody else in the field. Maybe a little further back. I think Elliott White will show us. Let's go on board here on the left front. Well, I say left front. Inside the car. No clutch for him, but several other cars have been doing it. We'll have to find another one into turn 7 in a little bit, but maybe Andre Melchers will do it. This will actually be a fantastic... Oh, Nicholas Rubelar has just dropped out of the race, I think.
Still in it, though. Do we have a technical issue? Wreck on track?
He suddenly dropped off the timing and scoring. And I think we're in the process of packet loss here, a failed throughput.
That's quite unfortunate. Just one kick after another.
Yep.
Yep, right there.
We should see that, well, you should see that throughput message anytime now. The car is 7. That is huge.
Way to kick a man while he's down.
Let's resume here with our race leader, Andre Melchers, now out of turn 7 down through turn 8. Well, headed towards turn 8, actually. Arthur Least on the back of Matthew Dench. This could be a nice little battle. Full-time esports number 30 has finally caught the 83. And you know what that position for Nicholas Rubelar is? Well, him dropping out of this race, you know what that does? That moves Gustavo Ariel and Bryce Rodriguez up 1 spot.
Definitely better for... Oh, wow. Slipped my mind. Yes.
What that is. That's absolutely why you've got to stick in these races. I know a lot of things can happen earlier on, and I know it can be very easy to get down about it, but if you stick in this race, you're likely to get more spots. Oh, Simon Nicholson gets on by John Sedlak here. This is for the 12th position on the racetrack. Nicholson and Sedlak, though, different class drivers, and Nicholson moving up just ahead of that Pro-Am of Sedlak.
I'll definitely tell you, Nicholson and Sedlak just kind of scared me there for a second. They got very close to the grass going into the chicane. I do not want to see another wreck car at a chicane.
Reed Gibson also in a pitwall.io car. So now teammates with John Sedlak have not noticed that before. I think that's a new car for him with the pink and the blue. I like that. Trailing John Sedlak.
Camouflage, which is why you didn't see it, but blue and purple are definitely standout colors.
Well, I noticed the pitwall.io. I think it might have been Gibson that was in that crash earlier on in turn 8. I noticed the pitwall.io on the side of the car. I had not noticed there were 2 of them in the field tonight, so maybe that's part of that. But cool to see Gibson in a new paint scheme this evening. Tied up there with John Sedlak. Elliott White is working on Mark Scott further back here. This is for the 17th position. Elliott White's a pro. Is Melchers purple with a 21.6. On board with White now is Mark Scott's ahead, and Blake Scott and Mark Scott are in line, 16-17. Elliott White's in this 18th position, trying to change that, trying to get up to 17th spot.
If we could, I'd like to go cockpit cam going through this last chicane. I just love to see how these drivers are taking these last chicanes and, watching the car unload right here, just getting right back on the throttle on exit, flat out, up through the gears. It's so amazing to watch.
See how Andre Melchers attaches it here in a few moments. Our race leader just went purple that last lap, set a new fastest of the race. And Elliott White has actually just gotten on by Mark Scott. That's for 17th position as we're on board with the Dutch driver, I believe here. Well, I think it's German. I think he's German, Andre Melchers. That would make a lot of sense. So to turn 10, let's watch his hands. Pace and steady.
What you would expect from the race leader.
Juan Bustamante now in a Ferrari.
A little wiggly through the center, coming off, but
Carmo and a McLaren.
Quite steady.
Oh!
Oh! Now that was a good catch.
What a catch!
That was an
there.
incredible catch. He almost hit the outside wall.
Here we go, pit stops.
Matthew
Dench to come in his Porsche. There's another car in front of him. I think that's Fabio Zamperlini in an Audi. Yes, it is. So we're seeing some of the first pit stops of the day. just past halfway. It's fitting. I think Matthew Dench tries to cut the race in half usually, so this makes sense for him, and Fabio in as well. Fabio having an off day. Down a 26th spot.
I feel like we're going to see Dench use a little bit of that fast repair. He's got a bit of damage here and there. Yep, right there. Watching pit stop counter.
Now, while these drivers start to come in for pit services here, a big shout out to, again, all of our partners here with the North American Racing League. And I saw Daniel Morad watching a little bit ago, and it's so cool to have one of our partners watching along and appreciating the words that we give them, because we appreciate the effort that they put in here at the North American Racing League. RaceLab.app, Maradnas Esports, Tam Livery, JS Consulting, they all do so much for this league. And obviously, there's the gimme of what a sponsor could do for a series and monetary support, sure, but it really comes down to a lot of business to business kind of stuff. As some of you guys may know, I don't know all the details personally. What I'm getting at is there's so much that somebody can give to a league, and that's what these groups do. As consulting, for example, the website, Tam Livery, for example, a lot of the social media support, Maradnas, a lot of the driver coaching, RaceLab.app, giving some prizes, I believe, to this series. There's so much that these guys do that goes beyond what you might usually think of. It's sometimes thinking outside the box. We had a Sonoma broadcast earlier today with BSR, and the tagline on that logo at Sonoma is "Think outside the oval." When it comes to partners with the North American Racing League, you've got to think outside the box as far as what a partner could potentially give to this league, and these guys give so much. So much. Ryan Kerr out there, one of the Porsche Cup drivers in, I believe, the amateur race, talking about the Maradnas coaching. 100% it's helped him out. 110% in fact. Maradnas is such a huge help. There's coaches in real life racing. Why wouldn't there be in sim racing? It's the same kind of concept. Maradnas is a huge help. RaceLab.app rather, same kind of deal there. Just it gives so much to these drivers. It really makes a huge difference. Things the pit stops take place here. We saw one long stop for Bruno DeCarmo. He took a long time in the pit lane, but most of these guys checking in about 19 to 20 seconds, 18 to 20 seconds. We'll see what our race leader does and recap some of the pit stops. Andre Melchers into the pit lane.
I was going to ask as to why these drivers were taking longer pit stops, but then I realized this is a longer race. They do need more fuel.
Yeah, they've already gone over 30 minutes, over that length that we would have seen these guys go in the amateur race. Over 30 minutes into this. Well, no, they're coming at 30 minutes. Anyways, the point being, they've already gone nearly 30 minutes, so they've used the same amount of fuel there. But they've got to go that extra 10 minutes before that extra bit of fuel comes in. 17, 18 seconds, 19, maybe 18.37 for Melchers. It's 50 on the lane as a whole. Bustamante, brand new to the circuit here with the North American Racing League, elevated the competition. He's taking tires. Oh no. You don't want to take tires.
Oh no, that's a mistake. Well, maybe he didn't suffer too much on pit road. He didn't lose too many spots. Maybe the new tires will benefit him.
Maybe that's what Bruno did. Interesting.
All the while,
we might, you know what? We might be seeing rear tire wear on these cars. That might be part of it. Elliott White is in his Audi. We might be seeing elevated rear tire wear on some of these cars. I think that might have been the kicker there for Bruno DeCarmo. Let's go ahead and go back on the replay and see Bruno's pit stop. He does take tires. We'll see it here in just 1 second.
The possibility, though, that he just might have forgotten to uncheck his tires going into the box.
Well, a 4-tire stop would have taken much longer. This is not NASCAR. They're not straight off. This is not Formula 1. A 4-tire stop would have taken much longer. So when he goes up on the jacks here after fueling is completed, it's a very quick stop as far as tires. Very quick tire change. It's got to be only fronts or only rears or one side or the other. We'll see it here just like we saw for... yeah, I mean, that's up on the jacks. Straight back down pretty quickly. That is not 4 tires. 4 tires would have taken a little bit longer. It's usually 1 tire at a time in endurance racing. And, yeah, that's absolutely a 2-tire stop. Pretty certain.
Well, then you've really got to figure out what they're deciding here. Do they decide to take front tires? Maybe they just need a little more front grip, or taking rear tires just so they can have that rear grip and slide the car around through the chicanes a little bit more.
Very curious. I don't think a 4-tire stop would be that quick. Surely not. really doubt a 4-tire stop in a GT3 car is that quick.
Look on with about 20 minutes left in the session. I'm noticing that Paulo Gadai has actually lost the lead for the Pro-Am.
Well, he was actually chasing Mark McDonald already. He didn't quite have it just yet. But
Well, he had
closer,
when pit stops had started, so I assume that he just had made a faster stop, but I saw him go back down onto pit road and end up losing the lead. He was up to 4th overall.
That definitely would have been in the middle of the stops. They have not passed Bruno de Carmo. They're way too far back in Arthur Least and Juan Bustamante. But they are up to 7th and 8th in the order after pit stops. So Elliott White, Mitchell Green, Matthew Dench, long stops. Dench, I think, has had to come through multiple times. His most recent run through the pit lane did not include a pit stop. That's absolutely a penalty for the Australian. It was a 40-second stop for Mitchell Ian Green.
This is a very big close through that corner. He just gained about, I want to say, 2/10, maybe 3.
Inside of 19 minutes to go, and McDonald is starting to have to think about this. We could have a nice little battle for the Pro-Am win, and Scott Reister is only a little ways behind these guys.
Starting to wonder if Godai actually took tires.
I can tell you he did not.
Ah.
The only drivers inside the top 10 who took tires were Del Carmo and Bustamante. I am so surprised about each of those stops. If somebody else can educate me on this, I don't think a 4-tire stop would have been that quick, only adding about 7 to 8 seconds of the time. That does not seem reasonable for a GT3 car. That's fast for a stock car. Got Reister back into the top 10. In fact, he's in 9th spot, which is a pretty big turnaround given the fact that he started 10th, dropped down to 14th, and is back now into the top 10. Gustavo Ariel now comes around into the 24th position. Look at this gaggle of cars ahead of him. That's Juan Bustamante straight ahead. He might pass 4th place. Oh, whoa.
Big wiggle. Very big wiggle right there going to the next left-hander. Or, excuse me, right-hander.
And, I see why he's battling so hard. That is Mike Galbraith just ahead. For position in contact with Bustamante. Bustamante gets back onto the course, and there goes Arthur Least on by. Oh my goodness.
They are going haywire through there.
So contact with Galbraith and Bustamante. Least goes on by. Now Bustamante is into the pit lane, and there was almost contact with the full-time esports teammates of Least and Ariel, and here we go. Bustamante into the pit lane.
Flashing his lights on the straightaway, trying to get the lap cars to move out of the way.
He's trying to get Galbraith out of the way. Galbraith has definitely been a thorn in these guys' sides. He's now holding. Well, in fairness to Galbraith, he's battling for a lot of these positions with a lot of these cars that are coming behind him. Laprie is now on him, and of course we saw the battle there with Gustavo Ariel. Let's go back and watch this. So this is going to be the onboard first with Juan Bustamante. This is about where we picked up from Ariel's perspective. Big adjustments there.
Wiggling around, and he has that inside line. He just got hit from the rear a little bit, actually.
Galbraith just came over. I mean, you've got to be aware of that. You've got a 4th place car on your right side.
And then going into the last chicane. Ooh. They really just were trying to make it work, and Bustamante goes straight to the pit lane.
That's such a huge mistake for Galbraith to make in that situation.
We've seen a little difficulty with track awareness tonight, but, you know, mistakes do happen.
Watch from Ariel's perspective, yeah.
Oh, wow. He was all the way on the curb, nowhere to go. Any further, he would have been in the grass.
And here comes Gustavo's teammate. He turned in for a second, realized he was going to hit his teammate, and turned back out of it. And then here comes Galbraith side by side.
Almost got my double wide through the chicane. Very close.
Here comes Galbraith alongside, and there you see Bruno de Carmo. There we go. Rodrigo Laprie comes in. Wow. So that changes things up a little bit. Obviously, that drops Bustamante out of this battle. Bustamante, I don't even see him back on the racetrack now. I think he might have just called it quits out of frustration. And yes,
he is still now 2 laps down.
Still in the pit lane. Race leader, though, Andre Melcher is with an 11-second gap back to second. a 22-second gap back to third, a 29-second gap back to fourth. He's looking pretty good today. Just absolutely phenomenal. But I still don't think he gets back in this championship battle. It's going to take a lot for him. And I think even last week, I forget if it was after the Porsche race last week or after the GT3 race, but he knows he's out of one of those battles. I don't think he's even in this one. He's just way too far back right now, 44 points back. Maybe. It's a big maybe with the drop week pending. It's a big maybe. In fairness, Gustavo Ariel is down there in what? 22nd. Nathan Lewis.
He has gained 6 spots. He was 28th. And he still has the potential to move up. We got a couple more cars that will go a lot down eventually.
As far as Andre Melcher's here, he's going to make up points on those guys. Juan Blainat's right behind him, though, putting up a second-place effort. Ubelar was good for a while. He's now 29th. Olivier, I don't see Olivier in the field. Hunter McDaniel isn't doing that well. He's third, actually. Hunter McDaniel, hang on. Hunter McDaniel's third.
Excuse me?
With all of that issue that we've seen for Bustamante and everybody else, and even Bruno DeCarmo, Arthur Lees and everybody else, I mean, this is huge for Hunter McDaniel. I have not seen a run like this out of him at all this season.
Can you tell me when he snuck by and we never saw it?
I would love to know.
I love the look of this car, to be perfectly honest. A couple of meme references on it. Because I'm just, funny kind of guy.
Hologadai is up into the nearly the top 5 with Mark McDonald as they trail a couple of cars further ahead. Bruno DeCarmo is really the only thing holding them back out of a top 5, and they're not that far back. They're only about 3 seconds back behind that McLaren. Arthur Least as well. I mean, this is actually, this is decently close. So our Pro-Am leaders.
Quite close between the Pro-Am leaders. Just about, a second separates the two of them. Actually, not even a second anymore.
Hologadai closing in, 7th place currently on the racetrack overall. Now, Blake Scott is close to Pierre Thompson, so we've got some Pro-Am battles. Let's go ahead and cover as many of these as we can in the next couple of minutes here. Blake Scott close to Pierre Thompson, who misses the turn 2 apex there. Now through turn 3, we see the effect. Blake Scott closing in. This is to move into the top 10 if Blake Scott can get it. We've gone from having a solid top 10 of pro drivers to a half and half split top 10 here. 5 pros, 5 Pro-Ams, and Blake Scott wants to enter it, and he just might do so. But Matthew Dent's just behind in his Porsche. Oh, pulling a wheelie there.
A very big curb hop. Surprised to see no damage.
If you hit it square, you'll be okay for the most part. He might punch in the center of the time or two, but he continues on. Brian Zinn and Mark Scott, they're close for the 15th and 16th positions. There's Brian Zinn, who we saw earlier on with some issues. I forget what the issue was, but no, he had an issue at some point earlier in this race.
Real up to 21st.
Attrition is setting in.
He's doing everything he can to just do any kind of points management. Whatever he can to keep those points, he's absolutely doing it, and I absolutely commend him for that. He's just seeming like he's got that never give up attitude, doing what he can to make sure that his points lead stays his points lead.
Mark Scott, massive trouble on the front stretch.
Oh my.
We just saw him in a battle. I think it was with, well, I don't recall who it was with now, but that Audi is destroyed.
The whole hood missing, front end destroyed.
And guess what?
See what we got here.
It's an Audi out of turn 10. We've seen it all night long. The Audis are quick if you can handle them. And it was with Brian Zinn there. If you just overstep the bounds by the slightest of margins, you're going for a big, big crash.
It's the same thing we've been seeing most of the night, just stepping it over into the grass and not being able to hang on to it. Like I said earlier during the amateur race, you dip those right sides or even that right rear, or left rear actually, excuse me, those were the left sides. You dip the left rear into the grass like that, it sends the car around completely. It's a very difficult time to try and save it.
Justin Sang closing in, or I think just got passed by Simon Nicholson, one of the two. Nicholson, one of the pros, I'd imagine, just passed Justin Sang and is on his way back forward. Lucas Souza behind these guys. Now for Nicholson, it's a 10-second gap up to Mitchell Ian Green. I don't think he's going to catch that 19 car. There's always that possibility of something changing this race as Elliott White continues to work here on Blake Scott. Elliott White, one of the pro drivers, one of the quieter pro drivers, though, as he works on now the 12th position. Scott was just working on getting to the top 10 now behind Matthew Dench, and Elliott White might even move that 167 car back one more position here. Now to turn 5 will go.
Been saying all night, the late braking, you just close in on that entry. It's difficult sometimes to try and manage the runoff because the driver in front usually ends up braking earlier and they get the better runoff because they're slow in, fast out. But sometimes that send on that entry really helps close that gap, but you can still gain a good majority of time to stick with the car in front, and they've got a little slipstream train going on, to be perfectly honest, and it might carry over going through the chicane.
We're still on board here with Elliott White as we go down to about 8.5 minutes to go. It's no question who's going to win this race unless Andre Melchers gets taken out or makes a mistake. And he's in and out. We've seen it many a time before, and we've seen it even from Andre in this season. I wouldn't consider him immune in any way, shape, or form to making a mistake here later in this race. I don't want to jinx him, so I'll give him the complimentary.
Definitely not immune to the. He's definitely not immune to the commentator's curse.
Well, yeah, I'll give him the complimentary knock on wood here. It's just a matter of executing, what, 6 more times, I think? 7 more times as we take about 7 laps to go. We're on to lap 31 and I've expected 37. It's either 6 or 7 laps to go, depending on if that longer pit stop takes a lap out. We saw with Rob Rodriguez, he came across the line with only 4 seconds to spare, so it could be that close.
Well, Melcher's right here, about to lap Sang for 6, who's in the 16th spot. He gladly moves over for Melcher's and gives him way to the racing line. And that is just another position for Ariel as we see Melcher's pull a bit of a wheelie right there.
The Audi's still in good condition. He's got 11 seconds and change back to Juan Blanat, who works through turn 5, now back up over turn 6. Hunter McDaniel in that Lamborghini. A very, very wide open bubble here. He's got 8 seconds back to Arthur Lees, who's just now at a turn 4, so basically the length of the backstretch. And he's got 14, 15 seconds up to second. So comfortable in his little gap, but I mean, a podium's a podium. You can't be upset with that.
Calling it. I feel like I'm going to jinx it a little bit, but I'm calling it. Ariel at least gets back up into the top 15. Because he's gained a lot of spots. He's up to 19th right now.
He's got a long ways to make that happen. Call it 26, 21, or sorry, it's 31, and another 6. That is 37 seconds up to 16th. I think 37 or more up to 15th position. It might even be up to about 40 seconds. So, things can happen here, Zach, but that's a tall order in 6 minutes.
To shoot high.
He is only 9 seconds back of Martin Crisp. So if Martin has any kind of slip up here, it's very possible that he at least grabs 18th spot as Gustavo works around at the 19th position.
He's just done everything he can to manage any kind of points loss he might have, and like I said, he's done a spectacular job. He's gained since he was back in 28th about almost 10 spots. Matthew
Dench has recently lost the 11th and 12th positions back to Blake Scott and Elliott White. He passed both of those drivers earlier and has made a mistake on this lap. We'll let these two go on by. Blake Scott now about a second behind Pierre Thompson. I don't know that he's going to get up there for that position, but is at least able now to worry about hanging on to 11th as opposed to 12th over Elliott White. And as far as your Pro-Am win, nothing's changed, aside from actually Mark McDonald opening up a gap over Paulo Goday. Somebody who's been so good recently on iRacing as a whole, but especially here in this North American Racing League, just not able to close in for the race win when he needs to. I don't know that he gets there. It's 2 seconds now, 5 minutes to go. I don't see it for Paulo Goday. I think he's going to have to settle with second.
To be perfectly honest, I think Gudai actually might have just used up his tires a little bit too much. He was close. He did everything he could to get that gap down so he could possibly make a move, but now he's just seemed to fall off the pace a little bit.
So watching some of these battles come to a close. Dench on Elliott White here. Elliott's backed off of Blake Scott now with the advent of R83 on his tailpipes. This is for 12th overall, behind a couple of Pro-Am drivers.
See a move on the front stretch if he's close enough, getting a good run through here, turn 10.
Amazingly, this Porsche has seen... Oh, Elliott White with a slowdown.
That was weird. I honestly thought he had broke loose out of the corner, and that's why he was giving way to the spot. But, I mean, prove me wrong if that's the case.
Big slowdown there in turn 10, catches him out. He has to let Matthew Dench go by. That's absolutely what that was.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane coming off the corner. I noticed him move over, and then we went on board, and he's flying right by him.
Reed Gibson trailing Brian Zinn here. This is currently for the 19th position. If Reed can get there, this is close, but maybe not close enough as they work through turn 8.
You said Zinn was in the 19th place?
Brian Zinn is 19th. Gustavo Ariel has dropped down to 22nd. He caught himself a slowdown. He caught himself a pass through, actually.
Well, sorry, man, I jinxed you. Unfortunately, I don't have any wood in here that I could knock on.
So this battle going on again for 19th. Brian Zinn just trying to hang on. Reed Gibson closing into that pitwall.io machine.
We've still got about 3 minutes left in the race, so still a lot of time to make some moves.
Things have definitely calmed down as this race has stretched on. I think attrition. This is maybe the biggest race that we've seen attrition set in so far. Even Long Beach didn't feel quite this way. It seemed like there were battles the entire race at Long Beach. And sure, there's a few now, but certainly fewer than I would have expected. And the top 5 is separated by 42 seconds at this point in the race. The top 10 by over a minute, which is just
We've got about, what, 2 laps to go?
We should get 2 next time by. Where is Andre Melchers? He's currently through turn 2. Oh, that's going to be close. That battle, though, we were just watching. This is nose to tail, down to turn 8.
We're about riding that line on the timer.
Brian Zinn hangs that left rear out in the grass just a little bit. Hangs on to the spot. This is for 19th position, so this is a lap down. As teammates start to battle, Matthew Dench has lost another position. Gave the spot back. Oh, goodness. Car's destroyed.
That is quite the nose damage.
See if we can fit this replay in before the end of this race.
Maybe you just hit the back of somebody, hop the curb too hard.
It looks like he had a moment where he wasn't in the race.
This is...
Oh, now we got him. This is before the contact, but he's let Elliott White go back by. Maybe this is where he gets by Elliott White. It is. So we've got to go further
right where he got by Elliott White.
We're going to go further forward here for car 83 and find out what happens to him. And this is down to turn... Well, there we go. This is through turn 7 now. That was... well, you saw a little bit behind the scenes there, but this is into turn 8. I'd imagine it happened through turn 10.
Who could that be that he's actually chasing right in front of them?
Blake Scott. Well, Blake is fine. Blake's still in the 11th spot. I'd imagine he gets unsettled. Oh, yeah, pops the left side. And I commented on the Porsche being stable, or remarkably stable through turn 10. And he makes a mistake, oversteps some bounds, and loses it.
That was quite the step out right there.
Here, Thompson has just lost 10th to Blake Scott. This is a big time battle, actually, to get to the top 10. Blake Scott moves on by after turn 5. And now Andre Melchers heads through turn 6. I think... Well, you know what? We can check the flag stand. White flag is out. Yes, this is the white flag presented by Whiplash Simcams. No graphic on screen, it looks like. Didn't quite trigger because we cut the race 1 lap short, but there we go. Andre Melchers is coming around to collect a big win as he laps Matthew Dench. Juan Blanat in second, some 10, 11 seconds back. This Audi has just been so good to Andre today. And I think he's won the Audi other races. Maybe not every race this season. I think he was in a BMW last week, but the Audi is certainly the way to go if you could handle it this evening. proving so here as he heads to the final corner, and he will come on down to the start-finish line and collect a W. Andre Melchers going to victory lane in Belgium. Paulo Gadai is starting to get close here to Mark McDonald. The race is not over. These guys are only into turn 7. Paulo could get close enough for the Pro-Am win. I don't know. It's going to be close here, Zach.
He definitely closed that gap. Remember, we were just talking about it not 2 minutes ago. It was a full 2 seconds. Now we're down to 8/10.
There's some traffic
going
ahead.
in the corner.
That's lap traffic. Turn 10 coming up.
Do we see a send into the chicane?
There's no braking zone here, just a lift and a turn in for the corner. I don't know that he's going to get there, and it's going to take a mistake now from Mark McDonald. Mark McDonald will leave turn 10 and be a Pro-Am winner in the North American Racing League. Congratulations, car 216. That is a W for Mark McDonald. The rest of the field comes on through. Just 13 cars this evening on the lead lap.
Splitting the top 10, top 5, all pro drivers, and the back half of the top 10, all Pro-Am drivers.
Two more cars come across the line. Mitchell Ian Green will be the final lead lap car across, and that is it. Race over at Zolder. I'm going to be honest, Zach. None of that went to my expectation.
Hey, you had expectations? Dude, I literally just got here.
You know what? That's fair. Let's go ahead and bring up our unofficial race results as they stand after 50 minutes of Pro-Am racing. Andre Melchers wins this evening. He backed things down a little bit there at the end to save a couple of lap cars, but does still take a 10-second victory over Juan Blanat. Hunter McDaniel, 28 seconds back in third. It's Arthur Least in fourth. Bruno DeCarmo completes a Pro top 5, but then Mark McDonald takes Pro-Am top honors, just 8 more seconds back behind Bruno DeCarmo in the 6th position. Paulo Gadai comes up just 8/10 shy of the win. Scott Reister goes 8th, a really good turnaround for Scott. Really happy to see him turn things around this evening. John Sedlak goes 9th, and Blake Scott completes your top 10. Pierre Thompson will go in the 11th position this evening. Elliott White will go 12th. In car number 11, Mitchell Ian Green near the 13th spot. Simon Nicholson in 14th. Justin Sang goes 15th to complete your top 15. Simon Nicholson, Justin Sang, Lucas Souza, the first 3 cars 1 lap down. Martin Crisp will finish 17th position, and a very strong Matthew Dench through most of the race. Drops well out of this one down to the 18th spot. A lot of mistakes on his part. Brian Zinn goes 19th, and Reed Gibson will complete your top 20. The next 10 cars to complete the field as a whole. Rodrigo Lepre for full-time esports, Duckhawk Racing rather. Gustavo Ariel for full-time esports in the 22nd spot. The last car 1 lap down. Mike Galbraith in 23rd. Scott Kimbrough 24th. Fabio Zamperlini 25th. Mark Scott 8 laps down in 26th. And these guys that retired from the race this evening, unfortunately. Juan Bustamante 27th. Bryce Rodriguez 28th. Nicolas Rubelar 29th. And Tony Kanaan did not start this evening. Will be credited with 30th place for practicing and qualifying. But that is it for TK. So 50 minutes of racing this evening. It's all in the books. Andre Melchers is first up. Zach, let's go ahead and give you the race winner this evening from Circuit Zolder. Car 25 led every single lap, won by 10 seconds. He's got to be thrilled.
Andre, so you had an absolutely perfect race. Led every single lap from the drop of the green flag. Just walk us through it, man. Tell us how everything kind of went down for you and how you feel moving forward with the rest of the season after being able to close the points gap quite a bit.
Yeah, hello guys. I'm kind of surprised that it was enough for the victory today. I didn't do really a lot for the race today, this evening. But yeah, I love this track. Maybe that was a good advantage for me today. And yeah, the pace was really good. And yeah, definitely some good points for the championship again. After my 2 disconnect. Yeah, we'll see then after some races or in the end of the season how much I can still climb up.
Absolutely, and one thing Andrew and I were talking about throughout the entirety of the broadcast tonight, from the amateur race and the Pro-Am race, is that how the Audis were absolutely on rails, super fast cars, but they were also incredibly They could be a bit nimble and hard to control sometimes. Majority of the cars we had spinning tonight were Audis. So if you could tell us how everything was working out for you. We had some guys taking tires, some guys trying to stay out. Did everything just kind of feel okay in the car for you tonight?
Yeah, it felt amazing. I really liked the track and the car combination. And yeah, I mean the Audi is quite tricky to drive because it has a lot of rotation. You have to be careful sometimes, especially when the tires are heated up a bit too much. Then it's quite difficult. Also in the chicane a bit, you have to be careful with the curbs. But all in all, I really liked the combination of the car and the track, and yeah, felt amazing.
Absolutely. Andre Melcher's your winner here tonight at Circuit Zolder. Do you have anyone you'd like to thank tonight?
I want to thank Luis Naza again for the help for tonight, and of course the team who giving me the chance to race here and supporting me a bit, and yeah, thanks to them.
So Andre Melchers with a big win this evening. This guy just seems to go out there and win races. He's a winning machine, it seems like, Zach. Another big one this evening. We're going to drop down to the Pro-Am category, though, and it is Mark McDonald in car 216 taking top honors in Pro-Am. And Mark, it's a big one for you. Haven't seen you win a race yet. Finally get one off your back this evening at Circuit Zolder. But why did we have to watch for car 216 all of a sudden here in Belgium?
I'm so excited. This is awesome. I have no idea why I was so quick. I think I just got lucky. But I really have to thank Mitchell Ian Green. He did a bunch of practice with me, and we did some close practicing together. And then after everything sorted out in that first lap and there was some contact and whatever, it was just like we were back in a practice session, just running together. So I felt super comfortable and was just saving fuel and stuff. And then somehow I just ended up where I ended up. But I have to give a huge shout out and a thanks to Mitch. He got an awesome new computer, a brand new rig that he's loving, but unfortunately he didn't uncheck his tires from like that checkbox that you can do or whatever. So he took tires by accident at the pit stop and was gutted by it. But it was a ton of fun just following by him, and then racing so close with Paolo. He had me under pressure the entire time. I know sometimes you watch a race like this and you're like, well, there's no dives, there's no passes, like, was it even hard? And it's like every single lap he had me under pressure and was gaining a 10th, losing a 10th, going back and forth. It was incredibly difficult.
We noticed Paulo laying on that pressure, and I got to ask here, Mark, how big of a deal is it hanging on to the lead from that guy?
Oh, it's like sweating bullets. It's like you expect that he's gonna, you know, you're gonna, especially here. You know, I told him in the waiting room, going into the last corner, I was like, I can lose this. I can still lose this through the last chicane. I can put a wheel off. I can get a slowdown. I can, you know, touch the wall. Like, this isn't a done deal, even if I'm a second ahead. And I was able to pull. There was some confusion with a back marker, and I was able to pull a second on him. But he chased me down on that second, and I was like, oh no, I'm going to see him come by me. So he put me under an immense amount of pressure, and I'm really just kind of lucky I did some deep breathing and held it together.
So you do collect this Pro-Am win, and obviously it's going to vault you quite a ways in this points battle. You come into tonight 9th place. That's 72 points back. It's a long shot, but what do you make of the next 3 tracks on this schedule? You got the Charlotte Roval next week, then you've got VIR, and then we close things out at Interlagos. What do you make of your chances the rest of the season?
So VIR and Interlagos, I'm super excited about. Those are usually good tracks for me, and I mean, it's hard to find a driver that doesn't like either one of those tracks. Charlotte Roval, you know, not my favorite. I'm much more familiar with the go-kart track on the infield from like the late 90s than I am the Roval itself. I've done some laps there in like a Porsche Cup car or something in the past, but I'm gonna have to put in some time on that one. And I think that you know, the way the season's shaping up, it's you got to get near the front, and then you kind of got to get lucky. You know, I got lucky tonight with the guys coming together, and with I think Scott got shuffled back, you know, in that first lap, and that really opened the door for me to get to the front. But you look at qualifying times. I mean, most of the Pro-Am field is within like a half second on a track like this, and it's going to be the exact same over there at the Roval and at the other races. For the overall championship, I mean, I'll take the classic. Like, I'm just looking for race wins. I don't know if the championship is possible at this time, given that I missed a round, but But I'm super excited to, keep progressing up in this championship and keep progressing through this. I do want to give a huge shout out to all the organizers and the NARL League in general. I found out about this kind of on a whim and signed up a little bit on a whim based on the upcoming Watkins 24 race. And I'm having a blast. It's one of the best series. Like, if you're somebody who's out there on iRacing and you're watching right now and you're like, I'd run GT3s, then you should hop onto this league next season, because it's just a blast and super competitive and super clean and smart drivers. I'm having a great time.
Yeah, we catch a lot of the chaos and the drama, but that just makes for good TV. In the midst of all that is 20, 30 some odd battles each and every night that just goes so fantastically, like yours with Paulo. Congratulations this evening, Mark. Cannot wait to see what you can do the rest of this season. Still got 3 races. You can go out there and beat Paulo and try and bring this championship at least somewhat into focus, or at least maybe go for a top 5. Who knows? Best of luck to you, buddy. We'll see you out in Charlotte next week.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Mark McDonald with a really good run here this evening, Zach. Just 2 really good guys to go ahead and talk to after this one. Now, unfortunately, as you will have noticed at this point in the broadcast, I'm sure we do not have Portuguese-speaking Zach. We don't have Portuguese-speaking JP Costa with us this evening. Now, I do want to wish JP and his family and whatever happened this evening the best. We know that he had to rush away, something happened, that's all we know, but it sounds like things are okay. So I know it's kind of heightening the nerves, but it sounds like things are okay. He's, we've been in touch, just wasn't able to be on the mic this evening. A big thank you goes out to everything he does. He's on so often that it feels really, really weird, and I keep wanting to say JP in each of these broadcasts. I broadcast him like 3 or 4 times a week on the regular, almost 4 or 5 times sometimes. So it is a bit of a hole, but Zach, you did a great job of filling it this evening, especially on a whim. I called you, 15 minutes before we started the broadcast?
Yeah, I'm sitting down with my mom eating dinner, and I look on my phone, and most people don't know I met Andrew through, helping him out with Pit Road TV and Car Store. So I have it pulled up on my phone as Andrew Car Store, and I'm like, what? What? And I answer the phone, and he's just like, hey, can you get home? I need you. I'm like, okay. Just, being the guy I am, I always try to help out, and I just try to get home as soon as I could. I bought the track and a GT3 car last minute. I just popped in whatever car I could take, and boom, here I am.
Now, we do have text statements from Juan Blainat and from Paulo Gaday. I'll go with Juan Blainat first. We'll even bring up the interview graphic, even though it's not quite an interview, but we got in touch with them via text, and we can at least read these out. Juan basically saying he's happy with today's result, a race that was expected to be very complicated by the circuit, which this is rough from Google Translate, so bear with us here. But certainly it was a complicated race. He acknowledges that this circuit, Zolder, this evening, definitely one of the more difficult. Talking about both turn 4 and the last chicane being very, very easy to crash and crash out of the race, and that he just try to stay careful throughout the entire race, just keep the car on the racetrack, which he clearly did, coming home P2, and definitely wishes his best regards to everybody here, and we'll see us next time out at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And then as far as Paulo Gaday, he also sent us over a statement, and I really appreciate Juan and Paulo being so willing to just quickly type up something for us, literally on a whim, play with us here. That's how live TV works sometimes. But as far as Paulo and his race, as far as Paulo and his race, basically goes on to say that it was a very difficult race, many challenges, especially with the incidents, and we saw that by a few drivers. Gustavo Ariel, for example, despite his early race incidents, had to come down the pit lane for a drive-through there towards the end, and he's just happy that he had a good race, happy that the pace was good, happy that he was able to come home in the 7th place overall and 2nd place in Pro-Am, and that he just needs to keep this going strong, keep practicing, and get stronger for next week at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, looking for that win again. And if I recall correctly, he went 2nd in the Porsche Cup race there at Charlotte just a few weeks ago. And literally, as far as the line of text that I'm reading here, I'll read it verbatim. I'm dreaming about this championship day and night, and I need to bring it home. He needs to bring this trophy home. So he is absolutely wired in, thinking about this championship and how he's got to go out there and grab this one. By all means, I think Paulo Gaday has the best chance of anybody to go ahead and do it. And just thanking the entire organization here at the North American Racing League, and thanking all the efforts here, for everybody that makes things happen. Car 193, a really strong effort. And again, for Juan and Paulo to change things up, they were expecting to talk to JP this evening. I appreciate them so much for changing plans quickly and working with us here at PitStop TV to get that one out to you. That said, see, I did it again. That said, Zach, upcoming broadcasts here on the channel at PitStop TV. This is how things look. We touched on it earlier. The MPI Cup Series comes back up on Sunday this week. We've had 2 broadcasts of their races so far this season. Circuit of the Americas for round 6, I think it was, and then Richmond Raceway on a whim for round number 7. Now it's round 8 of 35, Bristol Motor Speedway on the dirt. 9 p.m. Eastern, Emerson Arden, Devin Zimmerman, and Ed Scher will take you through the coverage there. Then Tuesday afternoon, bring BSR back into the fold. It's Elkhart Lakes Road America at 8 p.m. UK time. That's 3 p.m. Eastern before we close out a Porsche Cup season with, hey, that'll be Zach back on the social media coverage this coming Tuesday, 8:30 Eastern at the Red Bull Ring. A lot of stuff coming up. And hey, Zach, you're perfect. Go ahead and talk about our social media. Where can people follow along?
Yeah, if you guys aren't able to get on YouTube or any other form, I think we only stream on YouTube, am I right?
No. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. 4 different platforms when we have a solo show like this. We even were able to push out a simultaneous broadcast to Facebook and YouTube last night, and even Twitter actually, alongside with the IRL and the Outlaws coverage last night from IRL at Michigan and Outlaws at Iowa. But the URLs are at the bottom of your screen: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch has the same username as Instagram, which is why it's just Instagram on there, not Twitch. You can watch on any of those 4 platforms. Again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And you can, of course, follow along on social media. And in this case, Emerson Arden's work all night long on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Go ahead and give him some likes. Show Emerson that he was doing a great job this evening. It certainly does mean a whole lot. That said, Zachary, Mr. Murtis, how do you feel about tonight? First broadcast on the mic here at all with PitStop TV, and first broadcast on the mic, especially with the North American Racing League. A lot to learn very, very quickly. What do you make of round number 5?
Can't wait to get back to social media. I made a few slip-ups here and there, and, you know, I appreciate you for calling me out on those a little bit and helping me learn as I went, but, you know, for first time out, you know, it was amazing, and I love seeing these GT3 cars in action. I love seeing these NARL guys in action. You know, they always put on an awesome show in the Porsche Cup, and, you know, to see them in the GT3s are absolutely incredible as well, and, you know, it makes me want to go do some road racing myself. But all in all, I mean, from the commentary side of things, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and, you know, I'd love to do it again.
A big shout out to Dan Willis out in the Twitch chat. Just noticed that one out there. And all of you guys over on the YouTube chat, and I'm sure a little bit on the Facebook side as well. I mean, so many of you Brandon Louvier guys. I saw Daniel Morad out in the chat. And I see, Fernando Miranda de Oliveira Jr. I see Horacio Falcon. I think that's correct. I see Ryan Kerr, Daniel Morad again. So many of you great fans. Mark McDonald even chiming in. So great to see you guys all chatting it up on YouTube and Twitch. A big thank you goes out to you guys this evening. And a big thank you goes out to everybody here at PitStop TV as we wrap things up from Circuit Zolder. Again, Zachary Murtis joining me on the mic this evening, Emerson Arden over on social media, and everybody else that makes things happen, including JP Costa, of course, who had to split from us this evening, but he'll be back next week. And just, I really do have to go ahead and, again, highlight the efforts that JP puts forth. He is on at least 4 broadcasts with me weekly. That is 2 BSR broadcasts, 2 NARL broadcasts, and we sometimes even slip a 5th or a 6th in there. I accept that I got to do a whole lot of work here at PitStop TV, but the fact that he's on air with me so often is so appreciated, and just the job that he does is fantastic. He picked things up, not even an English native speaker. Speaks Portuguese normally, why he's here to do these Portuguese interviews, but he just does such a fantastic job here. It's easy to want to have him around for every single broadcast on the channel. A big shout out goes to everybody here at the North American Racing League, of course. Bring up those partner logos one more time: RaceLab.app, Muradness, Driver Coaching, Tam Livery, JS Consulting. So many great things happen here with the North American Racing League. And of course, big shout out to Scott Reister with the entire organization. Everybody, all the admins, even including former champion Fabio Zampolini, who make great things happen. That will do it for us for round number 5 in the GT3 cars this season in the North American Racing League. Round 6, it's Charlotte next week, but we certainly hope you join us again at PitStop TV. Before that, again, we're next on air with the MPI Cup Series from the Bristol Motor Speedway on dirt. That is Sunday evening, this week, Easter Sunday at 9 Eastern. And if you don't hear our voices between now and whatever broadcast you watch next, happy Easter. Enjoy the weekend, be safe, and enjoy some time with family. We will see you on the far side. Have a great night. Hopefully, we'll see you again this Easter.